Okay, we are live and kicking. Just get the lighting sorted out. Right, get the lighting sorted out. Be with you in a minute. That's better. Lighting all sorted. Excellent. Right, here we go. Busy news day in sports today. So, hello, Casey. Right, Casey. Well, it's been a very busy day, news day in sports. So, Casey, I'm going to fill you in with what's happened. There's been a lot of issues with cricket and rugby league, with cricket cheating and rugby league cheating and stuff. But please explain to me what happened to Swindon against Peterborough and why you were docked to win and Peterborough gone through. Could you please explain how that's happened? Because I'm very interested to know, because a friend of mine told me the result and I already knew that you had told me that Swindon had won and had gone through. And then I had to tell him, no, was because you had an ineligible player. I'm very interested on this, so please feel free to fill me in. I'll be very interested to hear what you have to say and what you know about it, because you're the Swindon fan. Right, okay. So do you have any questions at all? Because I can tell you a bit about the NHL playoffs as well. I know a little bit more about that. Any questions? Do you have any questions at all? Because this will be a very boring live stream if you don't. Okay. Right. Steve now. Last guy put an under 18 player on the line. That's fine. That player hadn't played. Right. Now, that is very interesting that little rule has been overlooked, because I know a lot of players are on two-way contracts in the league at the moment, with clubs in the Elite League and in clubs in the developmental leagues below, where Swindon and Bracknell are. And I'm very surprised that Steve Nell did not realise that when the season started, because we're in a new league, and because you have to abide by that league's rules that we have joined. I'm very surprised Swindon overlooked that. Very surprised. My friend who comes with me to a lot of games, when I told him that Peterborough had actually been given the win, he didn't believe me at first until he actually read through the website and the press release, and he was like, "How can Swindon not know this?" This is not the first time, and it will not be the last time something happens like this in sport. It happens actually more regularly than you think. But as a Swindon fan, how disappointed are you though? That's what I'll be interested to hear, is how disappointed you are with what's actually happened. Because if I was a fan of a team that had done something like that and not looked at the league rules, I would be ripping my hair out completely, absolutely completely. But do you have any questions at all? Because that's kind of how live streams work, is with through questioning. I don't want to drone on about a topic. Steve tried to change it and asked the league to let it off, but the league said no. Well, if you have a rule for one and a rule for another, it smacks of favouritism. I think from next season, all the teams will be aware of this ruling. It will set a precedent, but don't be surprised. This has happened before, where eligible players have been fielded when they're not registered to do so. In teams, it has happened before. It will happen again. You won the Autumn Cup, which is good. But I think if I was a fan of a team that didn't read the rule book on the league regulations on imported players or um, youth players, the amount of time they have to play minimum to be eligible to play, um, I would be really, really annoyed, to say the least. Pissed off is an understatement, but it has happened before. You asked me on last night's live stream about the NHL playoffs, and I'll get onto the NHL playoffs, which you asked me last night. Edinburgh Capitals. This is an issue that has happened before. I think when you were a kid, a lot younger than you are now, when I was probably your age, the Super League folded, and this has happened before with Newcastle Vipers years and years ago. This is back in like 2002, 2003. They had money problems. I think as long as Edinburgh can finish the season, the Edinburgh Capitals, as long as they can finish the season, then in the off season, the league will assess because then it leaves the league with an odd number of teams because Guildford and Milton Keynes have gone up, their main teams. So it will be very, very interesting to see what the league governance do and whether the other teams are willing to help out Edinburgh through this difficult phase because they've got a very good arena. They just have so on the ice side, the season's not been very great. Off the ice is where the issues are. But they've got a very good arena. It's got good transport links. It's at Murrayfield. But I'll be very interested to see what the Elite League does because they've had Basingstoke drop out the league before. In I think 2008, 2009, Basingstoke were in the Elite League. They dropped out and came down a level to what was the EPL, which is now NIHL, which obviously you've seen them play this season. If Edinburgh drop out another team may have to drop out from the Elite League, or another team will get promoted. So I don't know on that one. I'm more concerned about Basingstoke actually at the moment, Basingstoke Bison, because of their rink issues. Edinburgh have a working rink, so if they can find the league takes ownership and keeps them going, that'll be interesting. But I think it's a bit too early yet because there are still games being played. Drop Capitals and put up. It depends on the size. There's already one Sheffield team, so the Steel Dogs won't go up. Telford's rink's too small because it's one of the smaller rinks in the league, and the Phantoms. It will unbalance the Division 1 South because of the Division 1 South being a 9-team league at the moment and having a different league size to Division 1 North. I think they would have to find a brand new expansion team. Then they might have to do something different in order. But I wouldn't be surprised if the league itself takes ownership of Edinburgh and keeps them running and tries to find a buyer or relocates the team with a new buyer to somewhere else in the UK. It's been done before in other leagues, it's been done before in other sports. The league will take over running of a team that is in financial issues. If it's a franchise-based system, which is sort of what the Elite League is, they will try and take over. But you asked me about the NHL playoffs last night, and I know a little bit more. Winnipeg have secured their playoff spot. Nashville are secured. Vegas can secure today. I'll get onto that one. So in the NHL playoffs, which you asked me the other day, Nashville, Winnipeg, Boston, Tampa are all definitely in. The Maple Leafs can't be caught in third place in their divisions. They're in. Vegas can secure their position tonight. So they're the teams that are basically in the playoffs guaranteed in the NHL. I don't think the Oxford City Stars this season, they would have got promoted anyway to make it a 10-team league, and Cardiff Fire needs to stay going. Does anyone else have any questions in the lobby? Because there's more than just you watching. I want to hear questions from multiple people. Otherwise, it would just be boring. I talk about ice hockey, and I don't think everyone else wants to listen to that. But very interesting, Casey. The points you do raise there. I'm not sure if because I think we were expecting to get a team promoted from Division 2 South. We were into our league. We were meant to get a team promoted. I think they have to go through their playoff structure, and the winner of that will get promoted up, and then they might have a second team go up with them, probably Chelmsford as well, or Slough. They'll probably pick a team to go up that already has a team together. But I think the Bison. I think it's more than a couple of seasons. I think they're actually done as a team because Planet Ice own them, and the state of the rink is beyond repair. I don't know how they managed to start this season. I don't know how they managed to finish last season either. I think the only reason why they kept going was the fan base kept them going last year. But I don't know how the National Ice Hockey League in the UK allowed them to compete with a rink that was in such poor condition. I have no idea how that got allowed. That was a disgrace. And as being there as a fan, actually going there to an away game, I was disgusted by the state of the rink, and that's nothing to do with the fans of Basingstoke or the team. I feel very, very sorry for them. But does anyone else have any other questions? Any more questions? Otherwise, this will be a very boring live stream. I want to talk about more than just ice hockey. Interesting the sport that it is. City's on the contract. All the clubs had to, but when it was about to start, oh yeah, there was a thing with Chelmsford and Oxford City Stars where they weren't happy with the league structure that was actually finally presented to all the teams, so they were bumped down. That's why the Division 2 South is bigger than the Division 2 North. If you look at the on the website, the British Ice Hockey League and National Ice Hockey League website, that's why the Northern division is smaller for both overall. I don't know what's going to happen with the Edinburgh Capitals. It is a very important question you ask as an ice hockey fan. They could drop down into National Ice Hockey League Division 1 North and a team replace them from there. But I don't know. It's because of Chelmsford and Oxford City Stars, and I think a third team weren't quite happy with what the league structure was going to be in the summer, not that long before the season started, before pre-season started. So there were already worries about the going forward, what would happen. But from what I gathered, a team will be promoted will automatically get promoted from Division 1, Division 2 South, and another team may go up if Basingstoke can't find a solution for their rink problems, which I don't think they can. I don't think Basingstoke will be there next year. But no, talking about when you asked me last night about the NHL and the playoff teams, as I've said, a few places, Florida are still in the hunt. So the team that can definitely guarantee itself tonight is Vegas. Apart from that, all the teams below them in their divisions haven't got guaranteed yet. Give it Fishes an eye. No, I don't think that is the. I think that's a bit ingenious. Ingenious? No, I don't think that's necessarily correct. I think that in 50 years' time, we don't know what the finances of British ice hockey will be. We don't know what the finances of the NHL are going to be, and we don't know what the finances of other professional and semi-professional leagues around the world will be in 50 years' time. There's a few on the edge. There's some good teams that will miss out in the NHL this year. My team is not one of them. We are in. We secured our playoff place last night, so I have something to cheer about this season. But it is interesting that you asked about the playoff picture. The best bet, if you want to find out who's qualified and who hasn't, go on the NHL website and click on standings, and it will tell you from everything. Because of the way the divisions are worked out and the wild cards, it gets very, very confusing, and their playoff system and the playoff structure gets really, really confusing. But check it out; that might give you a better idea. So there's that. But do you want to ask me any other questions that are not ice hockey related? Because I know you've rewatched the live stream from last night. There was a few technical issues I found with it. Have they? The BBC, have they? That is interesting. That's not happened in a long time. The last time the BBC showed ice hockey, I was 12 years old. The last time the BBC showed ice hockey. Could live streams like this leave talk back sport radio for dead? I'm not so sure that people like me doing live streams and because obviously normally radio stations that have the phone in, you can hear the person phoning in as well. Because I'm reading off a list of questions that you guys are asking me, I can't. You obviously the listeners, the people who will be watching this later on or involved, can't actually hear. I don't. I think streams. If there was a you could, if you were to, like, let's say, communicate like Skype, then that would be very, very interesting. It is something to consider for the future. I wasn't even planning to do this stream today, but of course what happened with the Australian cricket and the Australian rugby league dominating the sporting news that I found, it's made it very interesting. It is, but I do you know what days the BBC will be showing those playoff games, Casey? Because I'll be very interested to watch them. But no, Mr. Neptunian, you're back again. The Rajasthan Royals, which is Steve Smith's team in the Indian IPL, have dropped him as captain as well. The ball tampering has already had its knock-on effects. Yeah, I think either they sacked him or he resigned as captain. I think he's still on the team. That's what I read on the article on the BBC, but that was 4 or 5 hours ago. Obviously, today it's been a very fluid situation with the Australian cricket. It's very interesting what Adam Gilchrist said. It's very interesting what Shane Warner said, Mike Clark, Michael Vaughan, lots of ex-players who've been national captains or have captained a side, who have captained various test sides, have all basically said the same thing, that Atherton's dirt in the pocket was one thing, but they claimed in the press conference that the coach Lehman had no knowledge, when clearly when the 12th man goes on and is on the radio with the communication, clearly the coach has knowledge. Because what Smith has basically given away is the leadership group. Now, when I've been playing sport at youth level and playing sport at amateur level locally, you got your leadership group. You've got a player coach, your captain and your coach will be some of your main leaders, vice captain, things like that. I think Smith has, I don't think he recovers from this. I don't think Warner recovers from this. But the whole thing. But the thing is, Rajasthan Royals are very, very quick. Because Steve Smith is out in South Africa, I'm very surprised how quickly the IPL team have acted. I think, from what I read on the BBC website on my lovely mobile, it stated that Steve Smith made the decision to step down as captain. But I think they've basically said, no, we're not having you as captain. Whether he actually goes on to make any appearances in the IPL this year because he has signed his contract with the Rajasthan Royals is another thing entirely. That's completely open to debate. But another thing that's happened, which you may or may not know about, is Manly Sea Eagles have actually been fined for their salary cap breach. And what I discovered and what I've listened to is it's 13 players at Manly Sea Eagles in the NRL, including Dale Cherry Evans, who's now their captain. And Cherry Evans has stated in a statement that he gave that he is not to blame for this salary cap breach. As far as he was aware, his contract was within the rules of the NRL. And he said it's his agent management. So Australian Sport Today, from what I found, Manly Sea Eagles have breached the salary cap in the NRL, and Australia have ball tampered. I'm surprised your Prime Minister has weighed in as well. Your lovely Prime Minister, Mr. Turnbull, who's just there. But it is a shame, because this Australian side is not a great side at the moment. You have depth issues with Australian cricket. There's an issue there. If you type BBC show lately about the free website. Okay, brilliant. I've got some ice hockey to watch on free to air TV. I'm happy. Thank you, Gracie, for that one. But with Australian sport in the last 48 hours, it's been 2 scandals that have come to the fore. And I don't know how much in Australia you follow the NRL, but obviously with Melbourne Storm, as you live in Melbourne, they got done for a salary cap breach. And Manly done the same, but they've got away so lightly. So lightly. Yeah, do you remember when the Storm got done for the salary cap breach? They got docked all their points and fined. Manly have got away with no points docked, a couple of club suspensions for administrators at the club, and a fine, which I find amusing because Parramatta had all their points up to that point in the season taken away. I don't understand how the NRL. I don't like Todd Greenberg. I think he's a bit of a slime ball. I don't trust him. He was at Canterbury as a junior administrator when they breached salary cap. He then became the CEO of Canterbury Bulldogs. He's now the CEO of the NRL. There is something amiss here because he's not by the rule book. He's not punishing Manly Sea Eagles for a systematic 5-year breach with 13 players whose contracts breach salary cap. How can that happen when they already knew Parramatta at the same time Parramatta were doing it and they caught them? That's worrying to me. Very, very worrying. But in Australian cricket, I think Lehmann loses his job. I think when you come back to the cricket, Lehmann gets sacked. Steve Smith never plays for Australia again. If he does, he will not be a captain. I don't see how he can play in the Australian side as an ex-captain. Michael Clarke's been rumoured to be reselected and play again. Really, with his back and his injury problems, I think Australian cricket's got a hell of a lot of problems. Lots of problems. So many. It really concerns me. From the live stream last night to today, so much has happened. And on the topic of football, yeah, that's what I've heard as a rumor on the internet. I've seen all the interviews that have been given by the Australian media with the ex-players, and there is a rumor mill going around on the interwebs that Michael Clarke may come back into the Test side, or help out with the Test side in a coaching capacity, in the backroom capacity. But there is, yeah, that's a rumor. I don't think he will. His back injuries are too bad. In football, or soccer as you'll call it, the co-owners of West Ham, yes, David Sullivan, who owns West Ham, he's been found guilty of avoiding tax by basically money laundering money from one of his companies through West Ham to give back to the company for a tax dodge. So West Ham are in the news again. So it's all kicking off today. Today I've just been on the internet researching for videos, and I promised I would do a video on the Australian match ball tampering, and it's got a lot further. The reason why they tampered with the ball to play with, so they could get a bit more of a swing, all they had to do was wait for the new ball. That's all they had to do, was wait for the new ball. So I do not understand what advantage they got out of it, because they lost the Test match anyway, and they got hammered. And the South African fans, if you listen to the when they walk out to bat, when they're bowled out, every time they hit the ball, the South African fans were basically baying for blood. As far as I know, the next Test match does go ahead, because they played the rest of this Test match after the ball tampering incident. So as far as I know, the next Test will go ahead. You've got the one day internationals and the T20 internationals as well. If you were to cancel the whole tour, that has to be rearranged somehow. I honestly am so surprised with the reaction by the Australian public. I really am. Everything I've heard online, by looking at the news reports, by reading the newspapers, the Australian public have gone into a full-blown riot over this. I've never seen Australians or heard of Australians hate their national team so much at this time, good or bad. It is worrying. It is very, very worrying. But it raises the question of match fixing in cricket yet again. That for me, it does. Match fixing. It raises the question of match fixing in cricket. Even though this was ball tampering, it's been done before in different ways, various ways of doing it. I've seen the Pakistanis bite the seam. I've seen Atherton with the dirt in the pocket. There's been allegations of every team doing it, but nowhere near as blatant as what happened 2 days ago against Africa. nowhere near as blatant. What can I say? I mean, Australian sport in the last 2 days have had two scandals explode in their faces. Um, the Australian cricket, the Cricket Australia has to have an internal review on multiple things here, and I think some of these players never, especially David Warner. I think he's done as a Test player. He's had too many altercations and on and off field incidents with him. I think he's done as a Test player. Steve Smith, I don't know what happens to him. I honestly don't know what happens to him. We'll have to see if he plays in the IPL as well, and if he plays in any of the T20 and One Day Internationals. I'll be very interested to see if he's actually still involved with the Test, with this tour, and then the IPL. Any more questions? I thought I would do a live stream. Any questions? Steve Smith, Lema. Well, here's the thing. David Warner's the vice captain, so he's part of that leadership group as well. Bancroft, here's the thing. He was involved with Bairstow with the headbutt incident, and he seems to be very buddy with Steve Smith. So I think it was more what the press are saying is that he's a patsy, but no, I think he was fully aware of what he was getting involved in. Swindon Town used to be in the Premier League back in the day, before you were born. Check it out. You'll be surprised. But no, Bancroft, I think, was fully complicit in what happened there. The press conference after the match, he realises the enormity of his mistake of getting involved in ball tampering. But at the time, he was a willing participant. I don't buy the patsy at all. After it seems like it is, but he was fully aware of getting involved in ball tampering when he was doing it. So personally, I have very limited sympathy. Oh no, they did come across as very, very arrogant. Two questions come out at the same time. Steve Smith, I think in the last 2 years there's been a contract wrangle between Cricket Australia and the players over centralised contracts, and that was rumbling into the Ashes series last year. That was fresh in the minds of the England players, that there was disquiet and there was problems with the centralised contracts and those players who have played IPL cricket. Well, Casey, quickly on your football one there, your soccer one. I'm seeing a lot of empty seats at grounds this season for cup games, league games, in highlights. I've seen a lot, and I covered that a lot last night. And it's to do with the pricing. It's to do with the performance of the team, first off, and second, it's to do with the amount of pricing, not just for ticket, but for food, drink, and travel. The owners don't take into account the food, drink, and travel. They're after the ticket price. Jim Maxwell's the best commentator. Oh no, Jim Maxwell, I do rate him as a commentator. He's not my favourite. Richie Benaud was my favourite when he was alive. But Jim Maxwell, I've seen an interview on South African TV that's on YouTube, and he really, really helped no bars on this. I think that two of the best sports in Australia, two of the most popular sports in Australia, are having scandals that I think we were talking about scandals last night. These are two massive scandals right now. Casey, I'm not surprised because their rink's unsafe. I don't think they want to contaminate the food you bring in. They force you to basically they do bag searches at Basingstoke Bison's rink, which I don't understand that. What, they trying to find a bomb? They search everyone's. No, I'm being serious. When me and my friends went, we had a bag search. And me and my mate Sam didn't know our bags, but Sam's girlfriend didn't. Ice hockey. Well, the thing is, yeah, ice hockey. I mean, I don't know how big the sport. I know there's an ice hockey league in Australia, but I don't know how big it is. But I will say this to make you feel positive. There are some New Zealanders, Australians, and South Africans playing ice hockey in the UK. So they've come over here to play, and that's good. That sports that aren't traditionally known for their winter sports are playing a winter sport in a league. But I don't know how do you watch the NH? This is a problem. But do you actually get to watch the NHL in Australia on your cable and satellite TV? Then, if the NHL is getting, coverage in Australia, that can help grow the game because people may be interested. But it's because you're a very warm climate in Australia as well. Ice rinks don't work well in heat. And if you want to see that in full proof, if you go on YouTube, as we are now, um, the okay, all you got to do is go on YouTube and just type in NHL highlights, but look at the places where the rinks are. The ones that are in the warmer areas of the US, let's say Florida, Texas, and California, Arizona, Vegas, they do have issues in trying to keep the ice sheet cold as possible. And in the 70s, there's a very famous playoff series in the NHL, and they're playing in fog because it's so warm outside, it's affecting the ice, and the dehumidifier has failed. So it's very, very hard to keep the ice sheet at a good quality. There's plenty of websites I can give you. Full Match TV, Full Match Replay is a website, and NHL Replays. Okay, they're not necessarily the most official way of watching it, but you can see some games in full with no ads, and you can pick up the game and learn the game. The best thing I can suggest for you to do is read up about the rules. NHL and it's got a slightly different set of rules to IIHF rules, which is the International Ice Hockey Federation, which is what other leagues will use. The best way to learn is by also watching, but also reading up on the rules and getting an idea of what the symbols and the markings on the rink mean. So if you've seen at the Winter Olympics, that's Olympic ice hockey. That's slightly different rules, and the rinks are slightly different sizes. So, but it's a good. I love watching it. I've been watching ice hockey since I was 3 years old. So I've been watching it for nearly 26 years. As you can see, I've got my my Jets hat, and if you've seen some of my jersey collections, I've got a lot of ice hockey memorabilia, such as my fan mask. I've got a lot of stuff like this, and if you saw my jerseys, if you saw my subscriber special yesterday, I had all my hockey jerseys out. And some of them you can actually find for decent prices online. But the best way you can learn about how popular a sport is when you're out and about with friends. Ask them if they've seen it. Ask them if they've watched it, played it, have an interest in it. I understand Australia is probably not the best market for a sport like that, but it is a very, very good sport. And if you have an interest, get the information and try and watch. There's highlight. There's the NHL official. I know it is an Olympic size rink because the figure skaters, the British Olympic figure skating team, use it for training. It is an Olympic size rink. It's IIHF standard size, which is Olympic size. I think because I don't know how popular ice skating is, figure skating is in Australia, but figure skaters have to use ice hockey size rinks to skate on. That's to practice because the ice sheet's the same size. So if figure skating starts to become more popular, and let's say Australia do really well in it in coming Winter Olympics, I think ice hockey may have a hope in Australia. But at the same time, you've got to look at the sports that are popular in Australia, and they're rugby league, AFL, rugby union, cricket, and the A League. It's got to compete with established sports and sports that are growing rapidly. So I don't know if ice hockey could work in Australia. I think the climate may be a problem. It'd be either a very Sydney, Canberra, Melbourne, Adelaide centric league, or Tasmania because it's a bit cooler down there. But I don't think it may not work. But at the same time, you have got figure skaters who've done well at the Olympics in the past and World Championships. So there is hopefully a way that as a sport, it can become more popular in Australia. Yeah, basketball. Basketball. The NBA took a game on the road this year to the NBA took a road game, but the Boston Celtics played a game in London this season, and that raised hopes of an NBA franchise in the UK, which were very quickly dashed by the NBA ownership. Basketball is a very fringe sport, but the NBA is the best run sport in the world. The poorest team is worth $1 billion US, so it proves a salary cap can work, and it proves that um, when the players and owners buy into that salary cap system, the league can be healthy and successful. But the only way that sport can have a chance to grow is if these marginal sports that are bigger in some countries are taken over there and seeing what the interest is. Because I assume there's a lot of basketball fans who do possibly watch the NBA on satellite living in Australia or stream it in Australia. I'm assuming there is. Australia's a sport mad country. They want to win every sport, and they get very pissed off when they lose or get caught cheating, as we found out. But I'm assuming. So yeah, there is the audience there. So I'm very surprised that the participation level is so low. If the audience is there, that's what really concerns me. That says to me that sports governance in Australia has problems. And sport in Australia is something I know actually a fair bit about because I follow the rugby league and I follow the AFL and I follow the Super Rugby. I have certain concerns about the AFL commissioner and the Aussie rules. I forget his name, and Todd Greenberg at the NRL. I have concerns about issues to do with sports governance in Australia. Not to put you down, but there are issues there. So for your basketball league to basically collapse in viewership, but the NBA still to be popular, I don't quite understand that with the viewing figures you have. The NBA is the most popular sport in the world because it's the richest league in the world. It makes the Premier League English football look nothing because every team is a minimum $1 billion worth value, and they don't have much debt. So I'm very, very concerned about how they're not spreading their wings wide enough. It's very interesting though. But of course, you've got a lot of American servicemen and women based in Australia, Papua New Guinea, and New Zealand as well, and they will have the American Services Abroad network, so they can watch the NHL, the NBA, the NFL, and Major League Baseball when they're out on base. And then, of course, they will go out and meet civilian contractors, and then they'll talk to them, and then the civilian. So I can understand how the NBA's got a viewership, but the thing is, Aussie rules. You may say that, but their grand final brought in more people to the stadium and more people on TV than the NRL grand final. So I find that interesting. But what? Oh, what's the footy program? You got AFL footy show. You got AFL 360, and then you have the one with that woman. Oh, what's her name? I was watching it earlier. Oh, it's going to annoy me now. I was watching this earlier. She's a Richmond fan. She's a journalist. I can't stand her. I want a shot. It doesn't help that the people presenting. Yeah, Caroline Wilson. That's the one. Oh, she does my nut. Footy Classified. That's it. She's on Footy Classified. I occasionally watch those episodes a day late on YouTube because there's a couple of channels to put them up. I can't stand her. It's people like her that are putting the young people off watching the sport because they're the ones who are THTA. What the hell's THT? No, the Elite League is not the same level as the NHL or even the AHL. No, Caroline Wilson, she does my nut. But can I respond to Casey's NHL question, and I'll get back to the AFL. The NHL level is so high. The AHL is still really good, and the ECHL is better. I think a bit above the Elite League. All three of those leagues have drafts. We do not have a draft system. I don't think an Elite League team could ever join the NHL. We're just not good enough. plus the travel distance as well. Just because they took games on the road to Sweden this year between Colorado and Ottawa for a home series, no. European, firstly, our rinks are the wrong size because they're Olympic size rinks, or IIHF size rinks, not NHL size rinks. And the travel distance and the it'll be the TV. No, it wouldn't work. I'm sorry, Casey, but the NHL would never have a British team. There were rumours in the past, 10, 20 years ago, they wanted to have a 40 odd team league with 10 teams in Europe based out of the capital cities such as London and Paris. That was very quickly shelved when they worked out the cost. It would cost too much. Back to the musical Neptunian with the AFL. Oh no, Caroline Wilson. If there's a reason why it's the oldest demographic for sports, but it's still the most popular sport in viewership, it's because of Caroline Wilson. Again, it's the travel and the different currencies, the different languages, and it would be the expense of it. European ice hockey is not as rich. Wow. But you see, but here's the thing: cycling is a very popular sport in Australia, and you win lots of gold medals in the velodrome and on the road. You've had some brilliant cyclists in the Tour de France, and you've had some brilliant track cyclists as well. I can understand there's more velodromes than ice. That I completely understand because it's a sport Australia have been successful at over many years. Cadel Evans, for a prime example. There have been others, but Cadel Evans is the one that sticks out. But there's a reason why the AFL has got this viewing demographic. Then I wasn't aware that the AFL has such an elderly demographic because there's so many young players in the league that are really exciting right now. But Caroline Wilson, she makes me want to gouge my ears out. I cannot stand her. She looks like a mummy. It's not because she's female I don't like her. It's her. It's just her. It's just who she is. It's her journalism is crap. She slags off every other team apart from Richmond because it's her team. She can never ever slag off her own team when they do something stupid. And Footy Classified. Oh my god, she does my nut. Oh, she does my nut. She has that cold stare just through you. Ugh. Well, I find this really interesting. Maybe that's just the club. Maybe it's just North Melbourne's club have an older demographic because of the area they draw their fans from. I don't know. But AFL, I do think it is the biggest sport in Australia for participation of playing. I subscribe to the Northern Territory Football League channel on YouTube, and they do stream all their games live. And there's so many young, talented Territorians from Darwin and Palmerston North and Alice Springs playing in the Northern Territory Regional League of the AFL that I'm very surprised of the elderly dynamic to the supporters. But that could be just because North Melbourne draws more older fans because of the area that it traditionally is from. Maybe I'll be very interested to look at the dynamics and actually look at the graphs and charts that are released by the AFL. The issue I have though with the AFL and the NRL is Todd Greenberg in the NRL, and who's the commissioner of the AFL? That's what I want to. It's interesting how I've noticed that there are more men of colour. I will say there's men of ethnic minority or Aboriginal minority do play in the AFL. But the issue I have is with the governance of the sport, not who plays it. I'm not disputing that there's an issue with the Aboriginal representation. Then there needs to be representation of all communities in sport. My bigger concern is with the governance of the AFL. I forget the AFL commissioner's name, but the NRL is the same. And with the Super Rugby being forced out of Perth in Australia, with the Western Force going under, I think Australian sport is really needing a revamp and a look at what is going wrong with Australian sport. Because, if I'm honest, Australian sport needs to have structural change in all sports. But I'm very surprised by North Melbourne having so many people over the age of 50 watching, unless they've already aged in the sun and they've shrunk because of the heat in the summer, mummified themselves. But no, you've raised some very interesting points. I'm not surprised there's more velodrome. Richard Goyder Yeah, every time I see an interview with him, he just looks like he belongs on Thunderbirds because he looks a little bit like a Thunderbird. It's his hair, but there's something about him that I do not trust. I love watching Four Corners, which is obviously your investigative journalism program. We have Panorama in the UK. You have Four Corners. I love watching Four Corners, and every time I watch a sports-based Four Corners with sports corruption, AFL gets dropped in there, and NRL get dropped in there, and I love watching Four Corners. I've watched a lot of the one that outed Stephen Dank, which we discussed last night. Um, the AFL came out very badly out of that, out of the peptide scandal at Essendon and the rugby league clubs as well. But Essendon and I think Collingwood were under suspicion, and Carlton. Stephen Dank has touched a lot of us, has been involved with a lot of Australian athletes, be it individual athletes who are in track and field, and team athletes such as rugby league, rugby union, and rugby and Aussie rules. Stephen Dank has got his sticky fingers in many sports, and the AFL to me came up very very badly out of that documentary. They did not look very professional at all, and I have concerns with Richard Goyder. I don't know much about him either, but every time I see him, a shiver goes up my spine. It's the same with Todd Greenberg. I don't trust a word that comes out of his mouth with the NRL. I don't trust them. Hello again, Casey. You're back. You haven't missed much. We've been talking about Australian sport and how it's going down the crapper. But over here in the UK, we've had a scandal with West Ham that the owners are laundering money, their own money, to avoid tax through the club. And I feel so sorry for football fans in the UK. I know you're a Huddersfield fan, and I know Casey's a Swindon fan, or used to be. There's a reason why football in this country's got problems. I'm very football in the UK, or soccer as you would call it, does have problems. The Premier League is not is like the AFL. The Premier League, the average age of a football fan in the UK is 41, and not from an ethnic minority. They're 41, white, and on an upper middle class income because of the pricing. And as we discussed last night, I don't know how much the chat you stayed in. The average price for football is too high, and with what's coming out with West Ham and West Brom, they've got no club finances. They've had to get an overdraft from their lenders. They're broke. They have no money. They've run out. There are issues there, but you still went to 6 games, so you still were involved with supporting your local club in some way by buying the ticket and watching the game. So I'll call you more of a sports fan, Casey, rather than a football fan. But you still went, you experienced it, you gave it a go, and you found out this sport wasn't interesting for you. That's another problem that football has, is keeping the fans interested, in keeping on going and being relevant, because ice hockey is an amazing sport to watch, especially I say you're a mascot, so you know you got to meet the players firsthand. That is something that a lot of kids would love to do, and have the chance to do, and sadly they don't. So for that if you've got any signatures and any autographs, they could be worth a lot of money, 10, 20, 30 years down the line. So I would trust that you treasure anything you took from that day. You treasure it, and any memorabilia you got from that day can be worth a lot of money, depending on how well or badly the club do and how well the players do in the future. But for Musical Neptunian, who's in Melbourne, main possible. Well, that's obviously your local area is South Melbourne, and that would be great for your local community to have representation at the highest level in your country. That would be great. But if you want to watch ice hockey and understand, Olympic ice hockey, they're not allowed to fight. British ice hockey, we're allowed to fight. That is a positive for Melbourne. Melbourne is a very big sporting city, much like Sydney, and much like Brisbane. And yeah, no, there's a channel. You see, well, let me just answer the NHL fight question in case I'll get onto your little bit. Yeah, basically, the fighting doesn't happen in the Olympics because it's just not done. It's not. It's part of the code kind of thing. They don't do it, and it's harshly punished by the officials. Regular league games, yeah, they fight. Uh, British Hockey Fights UK is a YouTube channel. I suggest you type in and have a look at. And you get to see my team, the Bracknell Bees, have a lot of fights in there. We are a bit of a rough and tough team. But no, Casey, I suggest you look after those signed things. You keep them, you look after them, and 20, 30 years' time, um, they could be worth a lot of money. I love sports memorabilia. Actually do have a lot of football programs. I just don't have them in this house. They're at my mum's house, my parents' house. But I have a lot of I have lots of signed programs. I've got every program from the FA Cup in the 2002 2003 season. I went to every single round apart from the semi final and the final, and I have every single program. I have a program one from each round, and I've kept them all perfect. So I suggest you keep all the sports memorabilia. If you get any signed shirts, any signed kit, anything, keep it clean. Never wear it, and you'll be fine. Galazzi's not spelt that way. Let's call him Gaza. He's just called Gaza. It's easier. Um, we shall see. We shall see what happens next season. Because with the team Basingstoke being in so much troubles with their rink, and I think Cardiff Fire will return. I do think that because they are the feeder team for the Cardiff Devils, and the Devils are a well-funded team. I think the Cardiff Fire will make a return next season. The Basingstoke Bison, I think that could be done as a team, unless a rink solution can be found. That the fans can find accessible. I think yeah, James is fine. I've met James Galazzi. He's a very nice guy. I've asked, but I know him not quite well, but I've had a good chat with him at the club shop opening night, and every time he sees me in the crowd, he gives me a wink. I give him a thumbs up. So when you talk to the players, they're in it not for the money at this level. They're in it for the love of the game. And I think that's the same with the Elite League, and I think that's the same with some of the leagues in Europe. They're in it for the love of the game, not because they're on big money, because they're not. That's why I like to see the players actually enjoying playing because it's a sport they love. But yeah, any more questions? Because you guys have been brilliant with some of the stuff. Summer is my mum's friend. You teach me how to play hockey. That's great. That is brilliant. That's what sportsmen should do: is be part of the community that they represent when they put on that jersey of the team they play for. And not everyone is going to be able to, play sport. Some kids do have issues. Okay, you have to pay a little bit of money, but he's teaching you the game, and he's teaching you a sport that you already support and love, and he's teaching you how to enjoy it more. That is what more sportsmen need to do: is get involved in the community that they represent with the jerseys they wear. And that's not bad, actually, considering that is actually very, very good coaching. How much you pay, that's not bad at all. And hopefully one day we get to see you on an ice rink play for Swindon or Bracknell or Peterborough, whoever it may be. Hopefully one day you're at a decent enough level to play the game. If not, you've given it a go and you've achieved something from it. That's what's important. I think more of that needs to happen at the high levels of sport. There you go. But look, you used to play a sport, and you are involved, and you want to see your area of Melbourne get a football team. And I hope South Melbourne do get accepted to the A-League, because Australian football, yes, you qualify for the World Cup with a very average team, and I'm being kind. I wish to be kind, but it is important that the sport continues to grow, and it is important that young people and older people get involved, keep active, and it's important for the communities as well. That is vital to keep the history of the community going, and having a connection with the local community is vital. And I think not enough sports, especially at the higher levels, do that. Not enough do it, and if they do, they don't make it public knowledge enough. And I think that's wrong. just check my volume. But no, so so what sports do you watch in Melbourne? What teams do you support? I understand you support the Storm, and I guess you're a South Melbourne football fan. I'd have been. Well, I will say this as an ice hockey fan, Casey. Your chants are a bit more inventive than ours. Ours are a little bit simple and nursery rhyme, and I think that's what's more important than the actual chants because every season a new chant can come up. I've come up with a few this season with my mate. We came up with a Christmas song, which was quite the 12 Days of the Bracknell Bees, which was hilarious, and the players found it hilarious, and we lost the game, and that was not hilarious. So but I like sports chanting anyway because some of them can be really funny and really inventive. Others can be less so. But your fan base is very vocal and very passionate, and it shows in in the team you've got. And the team you've got is very very good for the level that they play at, and they've kept a good core together, which is important. Um, okay, the Melbourne Storm. The thing about the Melbourne Storm, the one thing I've never liked about the Melbourne Storm was their salary cap breach and the fact that I've heard Maxi Barberia. Yes, thank you for rubbing it in because you beat us in the bloody game. That last game of the regular season, I almost had a heart attack and a stroke. Horrible. But back to the Melbourne Storm. I have a few concerns about the Melbourne Storm still being salary cap compliant because they kept Cronk, Smith, Cronk obviously just left, but Smith and Slater have stayed there as a core. And I'm very, very surprised how they managed to keep that threesome together for so long, considering that the breach of salary cap that happened about a decade ago. I'm very, very surprised. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's some salary cap issues. But the Melbourne Storm have been a brilliantly coached side and they've played brilliantly. But that salary cap breach, I think, is a very black mark on the careers of those players, especially when Cameron Smith admitted to having a second contract. No, I wouldn't say it would end the team because the amount of minor breaches that happen every season. There is a Wikipedia article on it, and the big ones are the ones that we hear about, but the minor ones where they're fined X amount of thousands for being over happens regularly. But the issue I have is Cameron Smith freely admitted he had a second secret contract. Hence why, for me, he should never be an immortal because he deliberately cheated and broke the rules. Right. I can tell you where the term Barmy Army comes from. Everyone thinks the Barmy Army is a cricket fan group for England. It is. The Barmy Army, though, actually started with rugby. The Barmy Army actually started with rugby league in the 80s. Now, yeah, but the Barmy Army abuse was actually an Australian media thing. It was a rugby league thing. Great Britain went over to Australia on many tours in the 80s, and they kept getting beaten many times. But the England fans or the Britain fans, Great Britain fans, were always in good voice. And an Aussie commentator, I forget his name, called them the Barmy Army, and it stuck. So in the early 1990s, when England cricket was also equally naff, and Australia used to beat us all the time, again, the Barmy Army thing stuck and it became a thing, and now it's an official group. And the Barmy Army supports all England or Great Britain national sides that travel abroad, and that's where the Barmy Army comes from. So it's an Australian. Yeah, I get bored of that one though. Like we need to be a bit more like inventive without swearing, because we use the same goal scoring song. Give us, we want more. It's just dull. I think we need to be a little bit more inventive in our chanting because other teams are. But no, you guys have been brilliant. You two have been brilliant tonight. I really appreciate it. I know a few others have popped in and out and listened to what's been said, but you two guys have been brilliant. And I understand in Melbourne it's like 5 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning. It's really early. So I really appreciate you actually, participating this evening because that is Herculean. effort on your part. I don't know how. To be fair, I don't. I normally go to bed at 4 in the morning. Um, so what? Okay, what music do you compose then? This is interesting because it may give me an idea of my fan base. I liked interacting. What music do you compose then? Yes, we did mess up. Well, the scoreboard doesn't even work properly. Give it. Oh, that's pretty cool. Electric. Yeah. No, piano music's fine. It's different. I mean, everyone's got to have a niche and a hobby or a job, and yours is music, and that's brilliant. Um, uh, that is great that you guys have those kind of things. I mean, this for me is my hobby, is doing this. Um, until I mean, this time last year, I would have been on my Xbox, and the fact you're self-taught is brilliant as well. That I commend 110%. That is kudos to you. Um, we need a lot of people think, oh, those who are self-taught, they haven't got the qualifications, but they're actually more qualified than the people who got taught through college and university. So I appreciate the effort you put in there. That is 110%, and you have to put some videos up of you playing, and I would watch them. I love classical music. I like jazz. Not always with the piano, mind, but I like jazz. I like rock music. So it's great. That's really good to hear. But no, this channel is a hobby. Um, and I enjoy, doing the content I do for you guys, and you guys make the live streams, and I think I might do a live stream more regularly. I think from now on, I only did this one tonight because of what happened with the Australian cricket and the Australian rugby league. Hey, weird music's the best music, man. Pink Floyd. Piano is a very difficult skill. Very, very difficult. We've got off sports somehow. This is a sports YouTube. What are we doing? But I appreciate the fact that you guys. I know, Casey, you live in Swindon, which is about an hour away from me, but Musical Neptunian, he lives in Melbourne in Australia. It's 6 o'clock in the morning out there, so I really appreciate him. I know you were up anyway, and I didn't realise that, but I appreciate you being up so early, and I appreciate your involvement with the stream. It's brilliant. But any more sports questions? Because there's a lot of topics that I could. Oh, now chess. Now this is interesting. I used to play chess at school. It's a very interesting tabletop game, and some tabletop games could be considered sports. I occasionally do watch Post to Post as a channel, yes. Not all the time, rarely. There's a channel I will recommend for you, and it's called The Hockey Guy. Check him out. He's my favourite sports YouTuber. I watch him a lot, and also check out Steve Dangle, as well. They're two YouTubers I think you should check out. They're right up your. They would. Well, here's the thing: it's a game of chance. It's poker, but the online poker tournaments and the TV poker tournaments. I used to play in these. I used to play poker tournaments. There's a lot of prize money there, and there's two types of poker. You've got Texas Hold'em, where you have two cards in your hand, and then the cards in front of you, and you work out what pairs or runs you have. Or there's five hole, and you can change your cards out to suit you, and then you work out if you've got a good hand. Texas Hold'em is what they have on the TV, but they do tournaments for both types of poker. It's big money in it now, and lots of sponsorship, and it's a big thing. So the channel I mentioned was The Hockey Guy, and he also has another channel called The Entertainment Guy. It does, Twitch does, and other streamers do, other websites do. They're also shown on free-to-air TV in the UK. No problem. They are also shown on free-to-air TV a lot, mostly on some of the lesser seen channels. So we have the four TV companies in the UK that are free-to-air, and that's BBC, ITV, Channel 4, and Channel 5. Channel 5 gets a lot of the poker, and ITV get a lot of the poker and the darts and the snooker. They're the channels in the UK that cover poker. Some people do class it as a sport. Some people class it as a card game. But anything that is a profession, and it is professional. You have professional poker players. You have the lines are getting blurred. Some people say darts isn't a sport, but they are professionally paid. Oh yeah, no. There has been. It's a game of mental fortitude and logic. Same with checkers. Same with dominoes as well. And dice. Uh, I have watched a couple of their podcasts and banners on the wall. Um, but there's only so many hours in a day, and I do other things. And but I have seen some of their content. Yes, and I do follow them on Twitter on here. So I will have a look at when the season ends. I'll look at some of their the post season and off season stuff and the pre season stuff they do. But my favorite YouTuber is the hockey guy. He's my favorite YouTuber, and I think you'll enjoy his content. I think you'll enjoy what he does. He's really funny. He's got a funny sense of humour, and he covers all 31 NHL teams. And he does cover other teams as well if it's newsworthy. He has covered the British League on a couple of videos, and I think you'll enjoy him. Right, what else should we talk about? Any other questions? Because I know there's some more people who've joined the live stream. So if you've got any questions, post away, and I'll do my best to answer them. But on the poker and the chess, they are tabletop games basically. I'll be happy to make some music for this team. Oh, the stream. Oh, right. That'll be interesting, and that's something I wouldn't mind collaborating with another YouTuber. That's very very interesting. We'll have. I've never collaborated with another YouTuber before, and that'll be very very interesting. We'll have to see how popular the streams get as we do them more and more, and how popular the channel gets. And I'll have to listen to some of your music as well to see if it's my type of music, because if it's not my type of music, then I'm not sure if it would work. But that is an option that is open, and that's brilliant. I'll be more than interested to consider it. Yes. No one else has offered to collaborate, so that's interesting. So I'm more than happy to consider it. Yes, I've got some other friends who are YouTubers who can help me out as well with that, and we can all help each other. That's great. And it's great that you like two separate subscribers in two separate countries are now talking about a topic that we've been discussing tonight. That is brilliant. That's what this channel is about. But yeah, Banners on the Wall. They are a good podcast. They have a Twitter feed. They're a British-based ice hockey podcast. So they talk about not just the league that our teams are in the UK, but they will talk about other ice hockey teams around the world. They are very, very funny. They're very, very witty. They're very, very interesting. And it'd be interesting to see if you want to get into ice hockey, send them a message. And say I'm from Australia. I follow some YouTubers, etc. Explain what you know of the sport, and it'd be more than interesting to see what help they can give you on that. And that's some of the ways to find out about sport. And this is the way broadcasting sports, I think, will go. Will be more to free to air internet and streaming. I think this is what's going to happen with sport broadcasting. It's going to end up like this. Any more questions? Because I it's been a good flow this evening, and I want to keep the live stream going for as long as possible if I can. I want to try and beat my live stream record of 2.5 hours. I want to go for 3. I want to see how long I can get the live stream going for, and see what questions are thrown at me, because we've had some interesting ones tonight. We had some very interesting ones last night, and we had some very interesting ones Wednesday last week. The thing is, you have to take the fighting into context. In the NHL, because not really initiate with the sport. You've only really seen Olympic ice hockey. It's very hard to say, but it's part of the culture of the sport that the players tend to kick lumps out of each other. It's a very physical game. Um, Fights don't always happen in every game. But they do happen. And fighting is up this season. But have you seen Slapshot? That's the important. I should do a video on my favourite sports movies. I suggest you check out Slapshot and Goon. Those are franchises of films. They are very interesting and absolutely hilarious. Maybe I should do a YouTube video on my favourite sports films, sports movies, because there are loads of funny ones. The Longest Yard, the original, the remake, Mean Machine, Slapshot, Goon, Miracle on Ice. There's so many, The Mighty Ducks. There's so many sports films out there in Hollywood. I'm surprised I haven't done a YouTube on that. Yeah, I found the banners on the wall to be pretty good as well. I don't normally listen to podcasts regularly. Um, yeah, I think you're a bit young for Slapshot and Goon, but the Mighty Ducks films are good enough. But banners on the wall, yeah, podcasts. Podcasts is another way I think sports will go. I think Talk Sport Radio in the UK is failing. I think the way that sports broadcast will go will be onto platforms like this on a permanent level. But how popular is that radio station? I understand that there is always some kind of sports radio wherever you are in the world but how popular is it, and how good is the quality of programming they have? That's what's interesting. It's not that they are a sports based radio station; it's the quality and the popularity. Because without the quality and the popularity, they will eventually fail because ad revenues will fall. We have a company called TalkSport, and it's going down the crappers over here. It's really on the way out. It's failing miserably. It was good once for like a minute, and it's just not great programming quality. It's not great. The presenting teams aren't great either. I don't understand. I understand. I do know he is a Basingstoke fan because I've got him on Twitter. But it is surprising. I think he's actually. I think what's going on with the Brink situation. I think he knows that team is going to be folding soon or hiatus, mothballed. Whether Basingstoke can find a rink solution soon, where they can share a rink, or they have to do like a London Raiders, I don't know. You see, that's why I think they have to fill out. People have to fill out a form to list on. I think that's to do with the copyright of the Aussie Rules logo and the broadcasting rights. I think it's stupid. It is insane, and that's why that station will probably fail. They probably don't have the full rights to do the radio broadcasts on the AFL games, and so they have to make you sign a waiver or something. I don't know. It sounds silly, and I think that's issues with Australian sport. There are structural issues with the broadcasting rights, and there's structural issues with the sports in general. Hence why what's happened with Manly Sea Eagles cheating the salary cap over 5 years, and the Australian cricket team getting done ball tampering so blatantly. There are cultural and structural issues within sport at the moment in your country, which is a shame because it's a great sporting nation. It has some of the best sports in the world there. I love AFL, I love NRL, but they've been badly run, and it's a problem. It is a problem, and these structural issues aren't going away anytime soon. Uh, Here's the thing: he's been offered. The reason why he's left, he's been offered a deal that suits him personally, and it was obviously attractive to him to play with new players. Um, you can't stop players moving on. It's annoying for fans when a club favourite moves on, but in this day and age, very few players stay at one team for their entire careers. It's very, very rare in any sport that a player is a one club man these days. It's very, very hard in men's sport or women's sport to find someone who will stick around at the same club for their entire career. It rarely happens now. It's a thing we're going to have to get more used to, and it's a shame, but it's here to stay. That the high player turnover is here to stay. Steve Bull. But here's the thing. One club men are very hard to find where they will stick with a team for their entire careers. And I can only name a few in several sports, only a very, very small few. Jamie Carragher at Liverpool, Tony Hibbert at Everton, Paul Gallen at the Cronulla Sharks. He's not going anywhere else. Cameron Smith at Melbourne, Billy Slater at Melbourne Storm. You have Corey Parker at Brisbane Broncos. But here's the thing: he had to leave for personal reasons, and then the local ice hockey team signed him on a part-time contract because that is what happens. But I have noticed when the EPL was around, and even in the Super League days before you were around, when I was a kid, the player turnover was exceptionally high in British ice hockey. It's the same in British football. It's the same in Australian rugby league. AFL, there's high player turnover. It's very rare now that you get that player playing their entire career for one franchise, one team, one club. It's so hard now. It's a trend that's becoming more common. Okay, he's on his 10th season, but there's got to be some point where he may retire or may go to another team for personal reasons. Let's say his family wants to move away and he has to move with them. But it's great that you managed to keep a good core together for a long time. That is great to see, and that's why you're such a decent team. You've kept a good core of players together for a long time, and you've been decent for a very, very long time, and you're fun to watch. I like watching Swindon games. Your defence can be a bit of a sieve, but sometimes your defence can be a brick wall. It's just Swindon are an interesting enigma of a side. But there's a reason why he stuck around for 10 years. He clearly enjoys it there. There's a good environment there, and he feels he can play his best hockey there. And that's why players stick around, is when they enjoy the environment they're in. It's a positive atmosphere. They feel they can be successful. They can feel they can help improve themselves and their teammates, and that's why players stick around. But have you got any other questions, guys? Because we've got some new people in on the stream, and I would like to see if they've got any questions to add, because otherwise it's just me droning on and on and on, and you guys asking very little questions. Well, here's the thing: you've got a very, very experienced core group of leaders in your team. Very experienced core group of leaders and a good team stability with ownership and the way you've developed players. So that's why the Swindon Wildcats have been consistent for so many years, is because they've developed all these players together. The leadership core is good, and there's some good young players coming through at the same time. So one player steps down or moves on, another player can fill his spot on the roster like that. That's what a good team has got: a good culture of development and keeping a good core together and keeping a good group of players together and working youth and experience side by side. So we'll see what next year holds in the British ice hockey. It's always, the off season is always nerve wracking. As you mentioned, the Edinburgh Capitals at the beginning of the feed. Yes, got Rangers come. For a while, yes, Rangers were the best team in the Scottish Premier League. Not now. You've got too many financial problems at the moment, and Scottish football doesn't have enough money at the moment. I don't know how long Celtic can stay as the best team in Scotland, but it won't be forever. I also don't know how long Aberdeen can be satisfied with second place, and I don't know how long Rangers can I mean, Rangers have got issues. No, there isn't a Liverpool ice hockey team. The nearest ice hockey team to Liverpool is actually in Manchester. Um, yeah, that's again good youth development, giving trust to a young goalie. And when he was a backup, he obviously learnt from a more experienced goalkeeper. Okay, yes, Celtic are the best team in Scotland right now. Um, I don't know how long they're going to continue to be the best team in Scotland, however, because Scottish football does have money problems, and the big name players aren't going there, and Scottish players aren't being developed by Scottish clubs. They're being developed by English clubs because they're pinched by the youth system. So that's the problem. I would not swap Liverpool for Manchester. They're both equally shitholes in the north. They're both equally vile. I've been to Liverpool. I've been to Manchester. I wouldn't swap them. But then again, where I live is not that great either. Uh, Smittle, to be fair, he's a little bit younger than Ma, but he is a bit of a sieve. Um, the only reason why he played for Bracknell was his dad was player coach in Lucas Smittle. He was a nice bloke, but he stayed for too long. Uh, Matt Smittle, he's weak on his glove hand side. He lets in some soft goals, but he's a very young goalkeeper, like your other goalkeeper, Reddy Marr. You've got two young goalkeepers. You may need an experienced goalkeeper in there next year because I think attacking players will very quickly work out the weaknesses of these two young goalies and pressure situations. Yes, Aberdeen are doing good, but there's a problem because of the lack of money in Scotland and Scottish football. Um, it limits the amount of money they can pay the players, and when the player gets half decent, they get pinched and taken elsewhere and bought out. So Scottish football's got the problem right now where the national side isn't great. There's not enough money, and there's still issues due to Setanta collapsing as a pay per view TV company that's still lingering on now, as it has done since 2008 when it went tits up. The reason why I chose Blackburn as a team was I was 3 years old and they were on the TV playing my dad's team Liverpool, and I chose the team in blue and white rather than red. That's the reason why I'm a Blackburn fan. I've stuck with Blackburn since 1992, the year the Premier League was started, and I've stuck with them ever since through thick and thin. And yes, the problem with Scottish football is the aftermath of the Setanta pay-per-view TV collapse, which was triggered in part by the ITV Sport TV pay-per-view collapse of 8 years previously. The reason why Sky hasn't collapsed is because they've taken that big chunk of the market. But BT Sport, I fear, could go down the same road, and then British Rugby Union and the football clubs will feel an effect. Pay-per-view sport has had catastrophic side effects to British sport. It may have helped the Premier League, English Premier League, but it hasn't helped all the sport that it covers. So that's just an unfortunate goal. That is an unfortunate goal. When a young goalie is coming out to play the puck and smash it clear, even if it's an icing call, that's just an unfortunate, unlucky bounce. It happens. But because you've got two young goalies, you've got to hope that the goalkeeping coach can help them. Because a lot of goalkeeping, doesn't matter what sport you're in, football, field hockey, ice hockey, when you are a goalie, there's a lot of mental up here, and sometimes it switches off. Well, hopefully, if Rangers can keep improving as they have done, that's one thing. But it's the off the field stuff with Rangers. There are still issues financially with Rangers. I've heard rumours of financial problems, which may or may not be true. But Rangers still have issues with money, and until people invest in the Scottish game, the Scottish game is going to struggle being competitive. The league is not competitive enough. Um, the thing is, I've noticed your goalie Smittle. He he doesn't come out and play the puck when it's near him on his stick side. He leaves it very close to the net. I noticed this in a few games last season when you played us, when we were playing you at home, and I noticed it when he was playing for us as well a couple of years before. His goal, his right hand side, when he leaves the puck within a couple of feet of the net, it's worry, and I don't know if that's deliberately done between the goalie and the defenseman, but there was a couple of times Swindon got it wrong and goals were scored against them. But no, it's been a great live feed tonight. I mean, I wasn't planning to do one, but so much has happened. Yeah, we've had it on free to air twice. We had it on Channel 4 in the UK, and then it got taken off, and then Channel 5 came in for a few years, and then got taken off again. That was annoying. In the 90s, Italian football was the league to watch. It was so much fun. You had players like George Ware playing in Serie A. You had Paul Ince playing in Serie A in the 90s. It was the league. It was the league to watch, and I cannot believe that is no longer free to air in Australia or the UK. I think it's a crying shame. But it's partly to do with the match fixing scandals and the dropping viewership of football in Italy. Less and less people are going to the grounds. Um, well, here's the thing with Scottish football. Because of the lack of money in it and the lack of investment, and the investment is from the Scottish FA has got a part to blame in the how the league has struggled, because it signed off on all these TV deals with Setanta, knowing that the business model of Setanta was weak. Um, yeah, I don't know about Scottish football. If Lyle comes out of retirement, I think that's a step backwards, because you've got these two young goalies. You just have to go with them. But as long as he is the one coaching them and helping them, these young goalies need that experienced voice. If you put the old guy back in, that will knock one or both of their confidence, and that will do them no good development, because you need these guys long term for the future of your team. That's the one fear I have. It's a lot of goalkeeping in any sport that requires a goalkeeper is a lot of confidence as well. And if you brought back Lyle, that may affect Mar and Smittle with their development and their confidence. They need the confidence, because when they get that win, and you've got to look how well you did with two teenagers in goal. I do believe on your day, yes, you can beat Celtic. Um, Aberdeen can do it. I think on a given team's day, yes, Celtic are beatable. The issue is Celtic are the ones who are the richest club in Scottish football. It hasn't always been the case. Um, but I don't know how long Celtic can actually stay at the top in a non-competitive league, because, Hearts can beat them, because players will want to play for bigger money. But the level that the Scottish Premier League's at right now is not a high enough level to be competitive in European competition, as Celtic have proven they are hopelessly inadequate in the Champions League, and Aberdeen can't qualify past the Europa League qualifying stages. So we need to. Scottish football needs local businessmen and local fans who are wealthy enough to buy the clubs and pump money in. And maybe you have to combine the top two leagues to make a Scottish Premier League of 20, and the next two leagues of a Scottish Division 1 of 20. Make it a little bit different, mix it up, because the small leagues I don't think is working. You play each other too often, and when one team's got a bad record and the other team can just win 4 out of the 4 games, it's just not fun. This well, it proves you the fact that Crisp is now in your development team, and Lyle may come out of retirement. That worries me a little bit for the development of both Mar and Smithell, because Crisp I thought was a better goalie than developmental League Two. I really did. So okay, you've got like goalkeeping depth. You've kept faith this season. It's paid off this season. You've done really well. You got to playoffs. You've done well in the playoffs. Okay, one of the games was unfortunately deducted because of an illegible player. But keep faith with the two young lads you've got. If you start changing it around, it's going to affect their confidence. That's what I believe. But I'm not a hockey coach. I'm not a goalie coach. I'm just talking from personal experience of playing. When you're given the opportunity to play, and then someone who's a bit older comes out off the bench and then replaces you, even though you've proven that you are better than them regularly through the season, it affects your confidence. it just seems you have got a wealth of goaltenders at Swindon, which other teams would love to have. As a Bracknell fan, we need a decent goaltender because Metten is horrendous, and um, Milton had some good games early on and then tailed off. Yeah, that's what Scottish football needs to do. I think the top two tiers need to combine together, and the next two tiers need to combine together, and then the non-league maybe needs to promote, make it another third tier. And you need money being pumped into the Scottish game from people who want to buy clubs, and some of the clubs are really A, they're not drawing fans, and B, they're financially buggered because of the Setanta collapse. Dunfermline, Livingston, Gretna went out of business. There are issues, and it's not just Rangers. A lot of clubs in Scotland have got financial problems. It needs fresh investment and a new infrastructure, and they need to look at youth development and why Scottish players are leaving the Scottish game. Oh no, that's different. That is an emergency backup. That is different. But you still have a great depth of goaltending at your team that other teams in the league don't have. They will have two goalies, not three. And the fact that Crit is it what's the other reason? And because Crisp has now gone down to start regularly for your developmental second group, your reserve team, you've got three goalies there. All of whom have played starting minutes. So I think you've got goalkeeping depth that we kind of wish we had. And I wouldn't be surprised if one of those three does get picked up in the off season by, let's say, Bracknell or Peterborough, because I think Basingstoke will disband, and then you've got Skins available. And when Dean Skins is available, that completely changes the dynamic of the league because he's a very, very good goalkeeper. He's a very good goaltender. He's solid. He's the best in the league, I think. Right. Anything else for you guys to add? Because you guys have been brilliant. Yeah, no, I don't want to Spittle back. He's got too many flaws with his game that I don't think we can help him fix. Because if he comes back, I think he'll be playing too much and he won't be able to learn from a more experienced goaltender. I think he's good as a backup. He's very observant of the more experienced goalie. But the fact that both your goalies are young is a good and a negative. It's good that you develop these players, especially Mar, and you picked up Smittle. But the issue I have is that's because there's two clubs in Dundee which are separated by a street. You've got Dundee and Dundee United, and their grounds are a street apart. That's the problem with Dundee football, is they've got two very, very competitive sides, but they're divided by a road. And it doesn't matter which one you choose Dundee United or Dundee, doesn't matter. You just choose them and you get on with it. I think Scotland is not as wealthy as England financially for the wage you get. The take-home wage average is less, and there's no money in the game. And the quality level isn't as good as the Championship or League One is in England. And that's me being personal opinion. From the few highlights I see, very few games are sold out, even when Celtic or Rangers or Aberdeen come to town, let's say, to play St Mirren. The stadium's half empty and half of it's the away fans. That is worrying when the home fans aren't showing up. That's a problem. I don't know who the main goalie was in the 2016-2017 season. I did miss some of the games that were played. I'll have to have a look at their EPL roster, but I think it was Dean. I think it was Dean Skins was one of their goalies then. Yeah, that's the problem. See, this has been suggested before, but you got to look at the travel distances between Rangers and Celtic. The nearest Premier League club is Newcastle, and then it's a bit further. The teams in the north half of England, yes, okay, you could quite happily do an away day, but let's say you've got an FA Cup tie, hypothetically. If Rangers and Celtic and Aberdeen were to join the English league system, your away day, Aberdeen could play Plymouth in an FA Cup tie. That is the length of the country. and the cost as well. The travel costs would really catastrophically bugger fans financially. It just wouldn't financially work. What Scotland needs to do is all the clubs need to sit down and go, right, what is working here? Not a lot. What do we need to look at? Fan retention. Fans are just not turning up to games anymore. Finances problem. Scottish football's got a lot of problems, and it doesn't seem to have any idea how to solve them. And it is what it is, and it's failed. When a good player comes along, he gets pinched by an English club, and you lose him. Yeah, no, Swindon does have a lot of teams. The American football isn't as good as it could be, but that's because the NFL Europe failed, and so participation dropped. It's just the way the American football is played. It's very stop-start. The equipment's very expensive, and rugby's. I don't think no. The rugby won't be playing in the summer. They'll be playing in the autumn and winter. They're playing their season now. Rugby union is not a summer sport, but that's an issue with American football in Europe. Is all the pads and helmets and stuff cost a lot of money, and you've got to have interest to have them. To at least have two teams, make it interesting. There's not enough interest playing wise. Fans love it, but there's not enough playing interest for American football. It's not great. It's not a great watch. I can assure you, it's a terrible watch. The quality level isn't what you would expect on the NFL. NFL's far better. But there's loads of rugby clubs. Yeah, no. Also, sports insurance as well. Yes, and that's then also a problem. And look at Scottish football. The problem you have in Scottish football is only very few teams sell out. You've got to look at the average attendance for some of the smaller clubs. You're talking about 300 to 500 fans regularly turn up week in, week out, and that's just unsustainable. And yeah, sports insurance has gone up with a lot in the last 5-10 years. It's just gone through the roof. There's been a lot of high-profile injuries, and that's caused shockwaves through the sports insurance industry. It's just gone up. Right. Any more questions? It's been great so far. So I've really appreciated everyone who's got involved. But any more questions? Because I want to keep this live stream going for at least another 20 minutes at least, and then maybe keep it going even longer. Because it's been really, 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 really interesting listening to what you guys have to say. And of course, you're a sport. I appreciate talking about sports other than cricket right now. But okay, well, there's a few things I've heard in the NRL that they're not looking at either moving a team out of Sydney or expanding to 18 teams till after until the new TV deal comes to be discussed. And yeah, Scottish football again, yellow skull. There's an issue of retaining fans and keeping fans interested in going. And if you look at some of the smaller clubs, let's go for Arbroath, for example, or Wraith Rovers or Ross County. Ross County are starting to get a bit more of a following because they're half decent. They're doing half decent for the club of that size. But Wraith Rovers, 350 to 400 fans average season attendance over the whole season. That's just not sustainable to keep a club going. It's just not good enough. I think it is in Tasmania. Firstly, it's the most popular sport in Tasmania. Secondly, one of the Melbourne teams plays a few games in Tasmania on the road and is sponsored by the Tasmanian Tourist Board. They have to seriously consider looking at Tasmania. Seriously, it's an untapped resource. Okay, yes, the population in Tasmania isn't massive, but for me, they have to seriously consider it. But again, NRL and AFL are not considering any further expansion or relocation until the next TV deal, which is in the 2020s. Yeah, they do. Yeah, I'm aware of North Melbourne. I wasn't aware of Hawthorn, but I was aware of North Melbourne playing a lot of games in Tasmania. I think North Melbourne have some financial issues, and I think one of the ownership group is very tempted to try and relocate the team there. But from everything I've heard out of the Australian media, such as NRL, NFL, AFL 360, and NRL 360, no plans for either code to relocate or expand until the next TV deals are negotiated. Yes, Motherwell have a decent stadium. They do have a decent stadium and a decent team. The issue is trying to get more fans to turn up to games, because there's a health crisis in the UK, obesity crisis. If you can get fans interested in sport, the kids will pick up the ball and play, or rugby, or whatever the sport may be. And that's the issue with Scottish football, is they're just not attracting the fans in big enough numbers, and stadiums are falling apart, and fans are staying away, and very few clubs have money. They're the issues Scottish football has to deal with. They do say that, but it's there. They've never really considered, okay, what do the Tasmanian people of the state of Tasmania want? Have they ever asked the Tasmanians? Because just because there's only about 600, 700,000 people in Tasmania, it's an untapped sports market. The Rugby Union World Cup in 2003 took some games to Tasmania, and they were very well supported. So I'm very surprised that the NRL and the AFL have not done a survey and actually asked and looked at, when the AFL and the NRL are shown on TV, what the TV viewership levels are through the Nielsen test. Because I wouldn't be surprised is when the NRL and AFL, especially the AFL, with the amount of Tasmanian players that have played Aussie rules football, I'll be very surprised that it's not 80% viewership. I'll be very, very surprised if about 80% of Tasmanians wouldn't mind having a professional first grade AFL or NRL team there. I'll be absolutely stunned, because I think it's an untapped resource. It's there. They keep producing good cricket players, AFL players, rugby union. Union and league players have been born and raised in Tasmania. I'm so surprised they haven't decided to try it. It stuns me when just because of a state size, that no, there's not a market there when there clearly is. I'm not sure if that would work either, because of the Scottish FA being separate from the English FA, and I'm not 100% certain how that will work. The big teams in Wales do play in the English League, but there is also the separate Welsh League as well. But I'm not sure how that would work, because of the size of some of the clubs in the north of England being Premier League and Championship size clubs. I'm not sure how that would work financially. I'm not sure if all what needs to happen is the Scottish clubs right now need to find an action plan, a serious action plan, to make the Scottish Premiership more competitive for all the teams, rather than just have Celtic win it all the time. Even though Celtic love getting all these trophies, other teams are getting sick and tired of not being able to develop players, because Celtic can just buy the players off them and then sell them on at a profit. There's a lot of structural issues in the Scottish game. Yeah, this is interesting that American football was played in the UK and in Australia, but there's a reason for that. There's a lot of American Army and Air Force bases in Europe and in Australia, and again, it comes down to investment. With Rangers' financial problems off the field, and Aberdeen not being wealthy enough to buy that one-star player or two-star players, it's very hard to get up to that one team that dominates the league. But I don't think Celtic will dominate forever. I do think eventually they will run out, because they can't attract the star players anymore. They've lost Virgil van Dijk and they overpriced him, but eventually they're going to run out of their Virgil van Dijk type players to sell, and their youth development will also have the same problems as every other team in Scotland. And with dwindling attendance figures in the league itself has got to have an action plan. The American football side of things, I'm not surprised they are played, but the NFL taking these games on the road to London, there was a hope that there'll be an NFL franchise in the UK. But then you've got to look at the failure of the NFL Europe, the eventual failure of NFL Europe folding. And when the NBA went over, they asked the NBA CEO, is there a chance of having an NBA franchise in the UK or in Europe? And he went, no, the travel costs and all that would be catastrophic. So I don't think the NFL will ever have a London franchise, even though they keep taking bloody games on the road here and ripping up our football and rugby stadiums. They keep doing it. What's this one? This one. Okay, we've just had a vile message put in the board, which is inappropriate and wrong, and I've had to remove it. But the O2 Arena, they were interested in possibly playing games. There was an idea when the O2 is the right size, but does the arena have the capability of having an ice sheet in there? That is the question. And it has been muted before, but again, the logistics, the and this guy's going to get blocked very quickly, very quickly, and bye bye. There's a guy called Rage Mode who keeps putting inappropriate comments in the hello Camel. There's a guy called Rage Mode who keeps putting inappropriate comments in the chat that are of an inappropriate nature, and it's just trolling. But it's a weird kind of trolling. So if you see him, please report and block him, because he's put some sexually suggestive message up on a sports YouTuber, and I think he's just here to annoy us and troll us. I do believe the NHL may have gone to the O2, but I don't know. The NHL have basically said that they are taking. Kemmel, basically, if I can, I'll answer Kemmel quickly. Basically, this guy called Rage Mode, he posted a very sexualized content of message, and there was a guy on here who's a young teenager, who's a subscriber, and I don't think want him to see it. And to be fair, so far on these live streams, everyone's been brilliant. And this guy called Rage Mode, I've blocked both his messages; they are deleted, so they can't be seen. And I've also blocked him from the channel. It won't be surprised if he starts another channel and comes back. But there was some very rude comments of an inappropriate sexual nature posted, and I've had to delete him. And then he goes, "What did the message say?" And I was like, "I'm not going to give you the time of place." So he's been blocked, and he will remain deleted. And he's now I'm just going to block him from the channel, because I'm not happy with what he. No, silly. No, that's better. We're going to report that. Oh, that's count. Right, let me just if you pause 1 second, I need to report this guy. There we go, and reported, so he can no longer bug us. I blocked him off the channel. No, honestly, Casey, what he did say, I don't think you saw it. It was completely inappropriate language and something I will not tolerate. Okay, occasionally I swear in my videos, but that's just me being a bloke. Yeah, no, thank you very much. Don't worry. He's been reported by me as well. You may have seen the comments. They were completely inappropriate and disgusting. But anyway, back to sport. Let that troll be done. He's blocked by the channel. He cannot comment anymore. Kemmel, hello. Good to see you. I wasn't planning to do a live stream tonight. For future reference, all live streams will be on a Sunday. They'll be on a Sunday. I'm going to do for 7 p.m. Sunday, which I think is a fair time. So Kemmel, if you haven't heard, a lot's happened in sport today. West Ham is an interesting one, and I will get to your Celtic comments here. Let's go in a minute. But West Ham, David Sullivan, the co-owner, it's been released to the press. It's on the BBC website that he laundered his own money. So he took money out of one of his companies and money laundered it through West Ham to avoid paying £700,000 in tax. That's what's happened. Is David Sullivan, co-owner, took money out of one of his businesses and to pay less tax, so he had to report a loss on this business. He took money out, claimed that company made a loss, put the money into West Ham, avoided paying £700,000 in tax, and then sold the shares that he took out for £1. Basically, it's called money laundering, and he's been caught out at a tax tribunal. This is a very complicated area of financial law that I'm not 100%. I'm going to keep it in layman's terms. You can appeal a tax decision. So when you get your rebate, or you're told you've paid too much, so Kemal, when you hit 18, you'll get your tax rebates. And what he did, he appealed the decision, and it went to a higher level of appeal, which is a tribunal, in the tax tribunal. It's a tier 1, and they found that he had to pay the tax. And I did a video on it. It's on my channel. I'm trying to hide my rage because I know we've got a Rangers fan, we have a Celtic fan in here, Yellow Skull obviously is Rangers, and you're Chelsea. So none of you are linked to West Ham. But and we've also got a Huddersfield fan in Neptunian as well. So we've got 4 football fans here. Well, okay, Casey hasn't followed football for a while, but he has been a Swindon mascot in his time. And yeah, musical Neptunian. So we've got some football. I'm a Blackburn fan, so none of us have a link to West Ham. But what David Sullivan did back in 2010, he got away with it until now, is absolutely wrong. It's disgusting, and it links back to what I said about Mike Ashley last night when I was asked questions about Mike Ashley. Some of these owners are criminals. They are. And I feel so sorry for the football fans up and down, not just this country, but worldwide. Not only who support British football, but who support their clubs when their club owners are involved in corruption, bribery, match fixing, money laundering. This has got to stop. And the way to do it is to protest with your feet. Walk away from the team, stop buying your tickets, stop going, leave an empty stadium, because empty stadiums really suck for TV. As Scotland's finding out, this is why Scotland has the issue. Scotland has an issue with only a few clubs being really well supported, and other clubs just having no supporters. And there's got to be more than just Rangers, Celtic, Aberdeen, Motherwell, Hibs and Hearts being the powerhouses and everyone being really interested in those clubs. There has to be more than just 6 clubs having all the fan base. But what Sullivan did, I think it's David Sullivan. What Sullivan, the co-owner of West Ham, has gone and done is disgusting. And he's been told to pay the tax, and he's still refusing to do so, and he's still appealing it. And people wonder why the West Ham fans are getting so annoyed. And I'm totally with the West Ham fans protesting against the ownership of the club. The ownership of the club right now is appalling. So Kemal, it's good to see you in the live stream. And I can only say again, I apologise for Rage Mode, the guy who wrote those comments. He is now banned from the channel. I blocked him, I've reported him, and then Casey, well done for reporting him as well. I don't know if you saw the comments or not, but if you did, thank you very much for reporting him as well. I advise all of you to report him, because this channel is not a place for that. Yeah, no, this is where Rangers have financial issues as well. Is Mike Ashley, this came up on last night's live stream, Mike Ashley still owns Newcastle, and he's giving you guys a cash loan. So I'm really worried about Rangers being bought out by Mike Ashley at some point. And then the issue comes, what happens if Rangers and Newcastle play each other, let's say in the Europa Cup, for example? That's where there's a conflict of interest. Yeah, I haven't bought a football jersey for years. Yeah, no, seriously, thank you, Casey, for that. Really appreciate it. And because of your age as well, because you're a younger teenager, they will take it far more seriously that you reported it. Thank you very much. But yeah, the best, as Kemal has said, and as I've said, the best thing to do is stop buying the merchandise, stop buying the season tickets, stop going, but that's an issue because of Mike Ashley. Let's say Rangers and Newcastle United meet in Europe, and he still owns Newcastle, and he's got shares or has given you a loan. That is a conflict of interest. And with match fixing being a big thing right now in a lot of sports, I don't think that'll be under the spotlight for match fixing, definitely. So he has to sell one club before he can buy the other, and he still hasn't sold Newcastle United. It's great that you may have that link between players, managers, and coaches and scouts, and that's great when clubs do help each other. But when Mike Ashley, who's such a divisive and he's not a great, I thank you very much, Kemmel. That's brilliant. Appreciate it. But with Mike Ashley, this rage guy has peed me off because of what he wrote, and I think it's disgusting that you guys had to read that, or because that is unacceptable. But back to Newcastle, because Mike Ashley still owns Newcastle, and last night, Yellow Skull, if you were in the chat, I don't know if you were, I don't know if you watched the live stream last night. He hasn't sold Newcastle United, and he still owns it, and I'm very concerned about the future of Newcastle United as well. But look what's happening at West Ham. Unscrupulous owners are doing very illegal things. You see, this is where developmental leagues can help each other. I think Yellow Skull, many Newcastle fans would disagree with you on that. The way his club has been run has been okay. Let me get onto Kemmell's one, which is also linked to Newcastle. Basically, Mike Ashley, when I was working at the property legal firm I was working at before Christmas, so I know a little bit about property law, which is why I know a little bit about what Sullivan and Gold have done at West Ham. It was the Christmas week, and we were on half staffing, and Mike Ashley said he wanted the deal done by Christmas, and I went, "This is not going to happen." I did a video on it, Kemmel, so it's on my playlist, football playlist. You will find it. And I said, "No, this is not going to happen." He wanted it done by Christmas, a week before Christmas, when most people are on their holidays. They've booked time off work. They've saved a lot of their yearly annual leave, and it didn't happen. So then I said, I hypothesised it could happen in the new year in January, and then it dragged on, and then it's basically turned out that it's going nowhere. I don't know how serious she actually was. The bid she tabled was around the £300 million mark. Mike Ashley wanted about 360 million. It went from an informal bid to a formal bid. Other bids have been tabled as well, and this one was the most serious. So Mike Ashley got into discussions with Amanda Staveley. She was seeing a lot of Newcastle games. There was lots of meetings. It's fizzled out. I don't know if the bid's completely off, or what's going on, but I can't find much information out about her. That's the worrying thing. She was involved in the Sheikh Mansour takeover at Man City. Her company PRP Investments was also involved in an attempted takeover bid at Liverpool. So it's not the first time she's been involved in a football takeover bid. But it looks like it's completely collapsed. I've heard nothing new on any developments. Last I heard was end of January. It was slowing down. It had stalled. But I think Mike Ashley's asking for too much. And I don't think she could meet. I don't know what happened there. Whether her backers, because she's backed by Arab money. I don't know. But I don't know what if she bought the club, would it be successful? But Sunderland are in serious trouble. As the next question, Sunderland are in real trouble. They have no money. They've got about £500 million of debt, and they're second bottom of the Championship and plummeting. They are in deep trouble. And I don't think Sunderland will. I think administration, docking of points, liquidation could be on the cards for Sunderland down the road. A couple years down the road, they are in serious trouble. They've been badly run as well. A lot of teams in not just Rangers. Rangers have been badly run in the past, but a lot of teams in the English Football League structure are really badly run, and I've done many videos on them. The amount of teams that have really got crippling debts, are spending beyond their means. If you take some of the millionaires and billionaires away from these football clubs, they can't stand alone. They will collapse because their wage bills are too high. They're not getting the turnover through tickets. Yeah, no, it will happen, Sunderland. They will enter liquidation. It's like Portsmouth. Portsmouth is another prime example. Happened roughly the same time as you guys with Rangers, for different reasons than you guys. You guys suffered from the fallout of the Setanta TV deal collapse. That was part of the reason why you ended up where you were. But Sunderland are in a very similar situation to what Rangers were 10 years ago and Portsmouth 10 years ago. And I think Luton Town have been thrown out of the Football League and got back in. It's not the first time, but I'm seeing more and more of this with football clubs really having bad financial problems. Here's the thing: it depends what league you want to watch. If you want to watch lower league football, yes. If you've got Sky Sports and they're showing Championship or League One, yeah, I would advise watching it. FA Cup, yes. Actual Premier League, probably not. It's up to you. If you still want to support your local club, Swindon have had some issues financially in the years. They have been a Premier League club. By all means, go down to Swindon and enjoy a Swindon game and watch lower league football. A lot of people on my channel have said they have switched off the Premier League and the Championship and they're watching lower league football. By all means, support your local teams in whatever sport they play. That's my mantra. If there's a local team out there, go and watch them. Northampton Town, they've had money problems as well. They almost went out the Football League a couple of seasons ago. AD Boothroyd kept them in it, which was good. But they're not the team they were. One of my old next door neighbours used to play for Northampton Town in the past when he was a younger lad. Now he's about 45, but when he was in his early 20s, played for Northampton Town. The thing is, some of these clubs you're mentioning have had so many financial problems. We could list them off. We could make a list of the teams that aren't financially buggered, and you'll come up with about 3. I think we're past the breaking point. I think honestly, it's been built up on bad debts, and I'm very, very concerned that when the bubble does burst, football is going to be not just in the UK but across the world is going to be in a real mess. Poor governance is part of it, and the FA with their fit and proper persons test, it's not been properly enforced or practiced because there are team owners who are criminals. The Nottingham Forest owner is facing drugs charges, and he's been involved in match fixing in Greece. Yet he's allowed to buy a British football club. Also, the financial fair play rules are not enforced properly either. I wouldn't be so sure on ice hockey going up, but at the same time, if football's having a problem with attracting fans, I wouldn't be surprised if other leagues and other sports do end up hitting the financial wall as well. Yeah, no, I agree with what you're saying about Sunderland. It's not just Sunderland; it's multiple teams in both Scotland, England, and Wales are really up against the shitters right now. In the Welsh League, the Anglo-Welsh League, as I'll call it, because some of the Welsh teams like Cardiff and Swansea do play in the British League system. Wrexham and Newport County also play in the British English League system. But you guys have got Berwick in the Scottish League system, who are actually an English club. No, many teams up and down the UK are really, Man City, PSG, Monaco, Marseille, the 3 big French teams, they've all broken financial fair play. Chelsea, you guys have broken it with Abramovich. Man City have. Wolves have, apparently, even though Wolves' expenditure hasn't been that bad. But I know a lot of teams, the fit and proper persons test for ownership test is not strictly enforced, and financial fair play is a laughing joke because no one enforces it, no league enforces it. There will come a point where the money bubble will burst, and when it does, the ripple effect will be catastrophic, and so many teams will go bust, and there'll be empty stadiums up and down the leagues across Europe that'll be empty and derelict. Yeah, no, they've done nothing. Burnley, yes, they have they operate very prudent budget. They have operated on a shoestring budget. They're now wealthier than Inter Milan. They're now worth more than Inter Milan, but they keep their budgets, their wages competitive and low. I'm surprised that they've got as high as having the league on the budget they have, but Burnley are good value for money. Even as a Blackburn fan, I hate saying this. Burnley, what they've done with the money they've got and the limited money they've got, they have done very, very well, and it's because of youth development. They haven't gone and choked the life out of the youth players by bringing too many foreign players in. They've developed a good young squad together. But no, PSG spending over £500 million in the summer is a disgrace, absolute disgrace. They bought the French league for the next 10 years. Financial fair play, what's that? UEFA, corrupt. It's because the governing bodies of these various leagues are corrupt and rotten to the core. And when football does go and the bubble goes, the ripple and the effects will not just affect football, they'll affect many sports. Many, many sports will suffer from the catastrophic consequences that are looming. No, well, Infantino, he's born in the next valley down from Sepp Blatter. Sepp Blatter is born in one part of the canton, in one valley, and Infantino is from the next village down. I'm not joking. They literally are born a couple miles apart. Infantino, yeah, no, it's just replacing someone who's a little younger and maybe hasn't got as much corruption in his hands. But no, he's still a crook. Still a crook. That's why the World Cup in Russia is going ahead, and the World Cup in Qatar is going ahead. Corruption. We covered this last night, and we're covering it again, and these questions keep coming up, and it's worrying me deeply that these same issues come up every day. And all you got to do is, I know at the moment all the viewers are in the UK, but other nights we've had viewers from Canada who watch sport, and Australia, New Zealand, America, and the same issues come up. Is if Rangers do win, yes, you can be in the Champions League, yes, but the issue is how long can Celtic stay at the top of Scottish football? And the Champions League, there's some games in the Champions League that look fixed to me. Match fixing, the match fixing is still an issue in Europe. It's a big issue. Um, that's why Infantino is. I don't think he'll ever sort it out. He's just as corrupt as Blatter. He's just 30 years younger. Oh, there's several games in the Champions League that I've seen have been exceptionally dodgy over the last 10 years. Loads of them. I think I'm not so sure on that because Liverpool beat Man City in the league at Anfield. I think that will come down to the away goals rule. I think both Man City at home and Liverpool at home will win those games, and it will come down to who scores the most away goals. I think that's what's going to decide that tie. Liverpool have proved they have figured out a way to beat Man City, and they were very effective in doing it. Just the last 10 minutes they turned off. But Kevin, there was, I forget the Canadian journalist. Yeah, that's another one. That's another one. UEFA didn't want. I do honestly believe that was fixed. Some of the refereeing that was absolutely atrocious. But they have done a survey and they've worked out, looking at suspicious betting patterns, that about 500 European Champions League and Europa League games in the last 10 years are subject to match fixing investigations. I mean, last season, I did a video on a Swedish league game that got called off because there was a player had been approached by a player had been approached by an unknown man with a large amount of money. Oh, look, we've got someone trying to do an advertising bit there. Yeah, I don't want that on this channel. I'm not a plug, so I please respect that everyone else on here is just asking questions. We've already had to have one moron blocked. Basically, match fixing is it depends on the sport. Casey, okay. In cricket, it's you can deliberately bowl a no ball. Okay, we've had this against Pakistan, against England in 2010. Or you can deliberately run yourself out. That's a spot fix. That's fixing part of a match. But football, yeah, no, you can deliberately lose a game for money. That does happen. I don't play FIFA 18. I don't play any EA Sports games anymore. I don't enjoy them anymore. I used to, not anymore. But I am on Xbox Live. So if anyone's interested, I'm I'm on Xbox Live, and if you want my gamer tag for Xbox Live, I'm happy to have you guys on Xbox Live as well. It'd be great fun to, talk to you guys online and play you guys a Call of Duty or Battlefield or GTA. But I don't have FIFA 18. No, I don't. But no, match fixing. Yeah, match fixing itself. Deliberately losing for money, or having a draw, so both teams get a benefit out of it. I'll just put my gamer tag up. So if anyone's got Xbox Live on 360 or Xbox One, there's my gamer tag. Feel free to join me online sometime. I'm not online every night on Xbox, but I play Call of Duty. I play GTA. I've got a few games that I play, so I'm more than happy to game online with you guys. But no, yeah, match fixing. Cool, man. I won't be on Xbox Live tonight, but tomorrow I'll see your ad and I'll add you back. But no, NHL 15 is the worst NHL they ever made. NHL 2005 is the best one, and I've still got a PlayStation original. Yeah, I've still got my original PlayStation. I'll get it out for you in a minute, and I'll show you. I've got my original PlayStation from 1997. Still play it now. But no, match fixing is a big problem, and investigators have right. Okay, this guy is advertising. I'm not having that either. Cool. It's unwanted commercial content. Thank you. Right, I've had to report yet another person on this live stream for trying to advertise stuff. This is not what this live stream is about. This live stream is about you guys and me having a debate about sports. You guys asking me questions and me responding to them. And yes, it is cool that Devils and the Panthers are in NHL 18. I have played a little bit of that, but I'm about to sell the game. I'm not a big fan of the later NHL games. They're just not enjoyable to play for me. I mean, I don't personally find them enjoyable. Right, it's now what, 8:10. Do you guys have any more questions at all? Because I'll go for another 20 minutes, and then at 8:30, I'm going to call it a day because I want to get my dinner. Yeah, I cannot believe we've had 2 trollers in half an hour. But it's a pain in the arse. I've been very lucky on my channel that I've only had 1 or 2 idiots who've been trolling in the entire channel's history, and for some reason tonight, 2 guys, especially that rage guy early on who had really vile comment placed. I'm just amazed as you guys are. Honestly, the Wednesday night live stream was perfectly fine. And yeah, maybe it is. And tonight and the last night's live stream was perfectly fine. And for some reason, in the last half hour, we've had one guy trying to basically advertise stuff, which I can get in trouble for breach of copyright if that is posted in the live stream. And cheers, Yellow Skull, for the Xbox lad. I'll sort that out tomorrow when I log on my Xbox and update it. Thank you very much. But for some reason tonight, yes, we've had two spammers and trollers, and it's really, really annoying. And I don't have any moderators on this channel. Other channels will have moderators who will moderate the comments on live streams. I do not have any moderators on my channel, so that's something else that I might have to look at. But yes, Camel, it is strange. I mean, how often do you get spam and trollers on your live streams? Because I watched your latest live stream. How often do you get them? I'll have to obviously, Casey, look at the moderator thing. I won't put you in as mod straight away. But I understand you're a regular viewer of the channel and you are a subscriber. I've got a few other mates who I think could moderate for me, and so therefore you guys can just enjoy the content that I produce. I think the reason why you, Ken, will get a lot of trolls and comments is because you are solely a fan channel. you are unashamedly a Chelsea fan, and I like that about you. You are who you are. You're proud of your club, but I have noticed when you do post your videos, you are being very critical of the club at the moment, and some fans may want to troll that. But at the same time, you'll notice the people who are trolling you have no content of their own. They don't post their own videos. They're just there to be keyboard warriors and to get a reaction. And what we had from that, it happens. I've noticed the ones who do troll. I've blocked one or two. I've looked at their channels. They're only there to subscribe and troll to people. They have no content of their own. They don't produce any content. They don't make any videos. Um, they have very few subscribers because they've got no content, and they're the ones that you will find will be the ones giving you the crappy comments and giving you the abuse or the inappropriate comment or whatever it may be. And yeah, you will get fans of Arsenal and Tottenham who will do that in the London area. But at the same time, what I've noticed on my channel is we can have fans of all clubs, of all sports, and there's no trolling. That's what I like about my channel is we have people from all over the world who follow multiple sports on my channel, and I've only ever had, I think, 3 troll comments on. I've only had 3 trollers, and I've basically nailed them all in a way where they want to give it all that, and then the team they follow loses badly the next game, and I troll them back. Well, 150 subs. Have I got that many? I didn't know I had 150 subs. I thought I had 130 odd. Wow, It must have gone mad though. I haven't followed any of my subscriptions today. I know I've got another 2 added today, and I was 138. But I didn't know I'd hit nearly 150 today. That is the biggest day for subscriptions. Then that I didn't know, and that's great. You've been supporting Rangers since the early 90s. I mean, I've been supporting Blackburn since 1992. So Paul Gascoigne was. I don't think I enjoyed Rangers at that point. I think he was still playing at Tottenham, I believe. But I've been following sports since I was a toddler. I've been following sports since I could walk. And I find, as Kevin said, I don't think I mean I found channels that do cover all sports, but not in the way I do. The other channels I find are dedicated to that one sport or that one team, and I like being unique, and I think that's probably why people are subscribing to the channel. And it's great fun. This experience has been a great journey. It's taught me a lot about myself in the last year. Okay, Gwen, I will say this. Thank you for liking the vids and enjoying the Six Nations previews and reviews, but I do not like having the advertising for BT Sport and stuff like that. That's not what this channel is about. Because under my user agreement, I can actually be taken off YouTube because of breach, for copyright violations. So I appreciate the fact that you want to highlight the fact that these games are out there, but I've already had one copyright violation in the last week by accident, and I don't want any more. So I appreciate that you're passionate about the rugby, and I want to hear any questions you have about rugby to me actually, because we haven't done a lot of rugby. We haven't covered any rugby union tonight. We've covered rugby league, cricket, football, and a few other bits and pieces. We haven't covered any rugby union. So if you've got any rugby union questions, I'll be happy to answer them. But I will say this: can you have no more commercial spamming, please? Otherwise, I will have to block you from the channel or mute you. And I don't want to do that because you are a subscriber. I know that, and you are a watcher, and I don't want to have to mute you because you're posting advertising for another site or another. I'm not in here for plugs. That's not why I do it, and it will annoy other users as well because it is spam. It was about the sport, but if you put that in the messages, in the comments, or message me saying the BBC are doing it, that is, you weren't saying what dates and times. And yeah, let's go. I will watch out for your Rangers logo. Thank you very much for the ads. I will do that tomorrow. Casey, don't worry so much about the BBC one. You weren't actually telling me exactly times, dates, and all that kind of stuff. It was sort of part of the discussion. It wasn't a deliberate plug. You were young. It wasn't your fault. But just if you have any information on any sports, any kind of like coverage that may be covered by a TV station, send me a private message on YouTube. You can message me, and I can respond to that message or that comment. You can place comments once the stream's ended, and I'll be more than happy to message you back saying thank you for the information, thank you for something I can research. But yeah, right, another 10 minutes. Any more questions? I may do some more, depends, because there's a lot of breaking news stories, Kemmel. I know you're more of a football fan and you play tennis, but the Australian cricket tampering scandal was exploded, and the NHL are getting very close to the playoffs in the ice hockey, and that's very interesting, and so the NBA basketball. And someone asked me about Major League Baseball, and I have actually been watching a few baseball games, so I can understand a little bit more about the sport. The Major League Baseball season is just about to start, so I'm not sure, Casey, about the whole copyright stuff. But if you're plugging stuff, which is basically advertising for it, I think you just mentioned that another sport's been put on a broadcaster. But certain broadcasters, if they do go through this, and they will try and do you for copyright violation. But I'll look out on the BBC website for sports coverage. So don't worry about any more on it. I will look at the BBC Sport website on the ice hockey section, and I'll see what they are saying, what days the games are going to be shown. So don't worry too much. It's okay, Casey. But Kemmel, yeah, there may be some more this week. There's some big breaking news stories this week, and some leagues are reaching their climax, and other leagues are about to start. And there's still all this rumbling about whether or not there's going to be a World Cup boycott. And obviously tomorrow, I think tonight. Now England are playing. Oh, is it tonight or tomorrow? Tomorrow night, sorry, England are playing Italy. So I will do a live stream or a video on that result, if you want me to. I know, Kemmel, you're more of a football channel. Your content's about Chelsea, but I do enjoy doing these live streams because I can learn stuff off you guys, and you guys can learn stuff from me, and it's been a really, really good couple of live streams we've had, and I'm learning a lot of how to do live streams as well. I'm really learning how to make the thing flow better, and the questions and the comments I've had have been brilliant today. And yeah, okay, yeah, Gwen, I prefer if you didn't. I understand why you did, and it's okay as long as you apologised. But I want to try and keep those commercial plugs off the live stream, and off my comments as well. If you want to message me saying, look, a BT are showing this, that's fine. The thing is, I don't have BT Sport, so I have to catch up on highlights, which the BT Sport YouTube channel has, which aren't great, but they have high enough there for me to pick up enough. Plus, there's the Premiership highlights on Channel 5 as well, so I can pick up bits and pieces. And there's a few live games that Channel 5 have got rights for this season, so I can pick up a few bits and pieces. But it's okay, Gwen. Just make sure it doesn't happen again. That's all. The thing is, heated rivalries, Yellow Sky, are really interesting because you can have that banter and you can bounce off each other, and it's really, really interesting. But some of the rivalries are actually quite deadly, and I mean that in all seriousness. People have been murdered at football matches in this country, in the UK, Scotland, England, and Wales. At a Millwall West Ham game a few years ago, a father took his son to a game, and the father was stabbed and killed outside the old Upton Park. It happens even now. Arsenal versus Tottenham is just as brutal. There's a lot of anti-Semitic abuse that goes between the two teams. And ironically, Arsenal have much more Jewish fans supporting them than Tottenham. But because Tottenham are synonymous with that area of London being a very Jewish area, lots of Orthodox Jews living in the Tottenham area, the anti-Semitic chanting and some of the violence that goes on at these games, which we don't hear about, such as the 100 England fans in Holland over the weekend getting arrested for violence. It still happens. We're just not as bad as we used to be. Other nations are worse, but no, violence at football happens. Casey, I have to correct you there. It has happened in the past. I have seen it. Back in the Super League days, in the late 90s, early noughties, things got very violent. And in the early EPL days, there were some not so pleasant things happen between individual fans and groups of fans. It did happen. Not so much now, but even the players can still drop the gloves outside. Yeah, the thing is, with there's a segment of Chelsea fans who are racist, as we found out in Paris a couple of years ago. Yeah, Partick Thistle. They're another team based in Glasgow though, and because of Partick and Rangers being in the lower leagues a lot in recent years, they have played each other, and there is that hatred there that Partick aren't taken seriously by Celtic and Rangers. It happens, and it's very very sectarian in Scotland as well, which is a worry. It's on religious lines, which is a worrying thing. In light of current political events with Europe, sectarian violence could be a thing that returns to our cities and towns in this country, which I hope doesn't. As a son of a soldier who had to serve in Northern Ireland during the Troubles and not know if my dad was going to come home every night, I do hope sectarian violence leaves football because it's vile, it's puerile, it's disgusting, it's ignorant, and it belongs in the past. But yeah, no, Chelsea. Yes, you do have. There is a racist element to some Chelsea fans called the headhunters. There are a few of them live around in my area in Berkshire. They are vile. Um, yeah, football. Swindon and Oxford. Yeah, Oxford United and Swindon Town. Their rivalry is pretty bad. Aldershot and Reading is pretty bad. I have a friend who's an Aldershot fan, and he's got scars from when he's a bit older than me, but he's got scars all over his face from punch ups in the old second division days when he was a lad, and it still happens now. Aldershot Farnborough is a rivalry in from my local area. Maidenhead and Staines. Even these not even in the non-league. There is Liverpool Everton. Yep, no, it's the most. It's the derby match. It's the match with the most red cards in the Premier League ever. It is the worst behaved match for fans and players. The Merseyside derby occasionally can spill over, mostly by the players, but occasionally the fans do silly things as well. It still happens. Just look at what happened at West Ham against Burnley. Both games this season have been marred by pitch invasions. The Burnley fans invaded the pitch after the 3-0 defeat in October. About 2,000 of them. No action taken by the FA. West Ham fans, separate pitch invasions. No real action taken by the FA. Extra police and security. It proves how toothless the FA are when it comes to football violence. They're completely toothless. They've got lazy because it's not as much of a thing now as it was 20, 30 years ago when I was a kid growing up, when I was 4 or 5 years old. We had the riot in Dublin in 1995 during an Ireland game. We had the violence at the World Cup in 1998. And I do agree with the West Ham fans' right to protest, not with invading the pitch. I agree with the right to protest, but when they started lobbing missiles at Sullivan Gold, even though I think Sullivan Gold are vile human beings, and they have been in prison before, how they got to own a football club a second time, because they've already burned Birmingham and ruined that club, I don't know. But I agree with the West Ham fans' right to protest. What I don't agree with is how they went about it, those individuals, because the protest was cancelled. Yeah, it's even you can admit it still happens, Yellow Skull. That the violence still happens, and most of it is to do with group mentality, and alcohol is normally involved, or drugs. It happens, and it unfortunately is happening more and more often. Not as much again as the 80s and 90s, but the issue is still there. It hasn't gone away, and the FA and the Scottish FA and the Welsh FA have been sitting back on, they've been caught on the job here. They've been lazy, they've been lax, and they've allowed it to get worse. Yes, I have. I've seen Guildford Flames cars get their windows smashed. I've seen Guildford Flames fans slash our tyres. I've seen the Sheffield Steel Dogs and Bracknell players go at it, and some of the fans go at it as well in the car park. She was also in. Karen Brady is involved with West Ham because when they were at Birmingham City, Sullivan Gold, she was involved there as well. She's employee of Sullivan and Gold. She works for them and Lord Sugar. She is basically, because they're I hate to say this, Sullivan and Gold are Jewish. Lord Sugar's Jewish. Karen Brady worked for Lord Sugar. He recommended her to Sullivan and Gold. She worked at West Ham before as a member of the backroom staff. That's why she's involved with Sullivan and Gold. It's to do with a connection with Lord Sugar. They're all crooks. I'm not a big fan of Lord Sugar either. Yeah, she's been involved. She's been made a peer in the House of Lords by the former government. Yeah, Scott Brown's just a thug. I don't like him. I don't rate him as a player. He is a thug. Um, he his disciplinary record's poor. He's not as bad as Joe Barton, but he's a similar type player. He will start that pitch side brawl. He will incite the opposition to brawl with you. He's an absolute shitbag. But I will say this. Oh, go away. I will say this. Whilst my family annoy me because I don't know what a shut door means when I'm recording. I will say this. I've seen violence at ice hockey games. Yes, Karen Brady, she has to know what's going on because the racist scandal at West Ham with the transfers, and the issues with Birmingham City when she was part of the ownership group there as well. I don't think Frankie Bakalik plays for the Bracknell Bees ever again. He will still be missing about 13 games, including the two friendlies. So 11 regular season games and the two friendly games at the start of next season. That's over 25% of the league season he will miss, plus cup games. It's not worth him being out for that long. Yeah, I will try and make them more regular. This was actually on a whim. This wasn't a planned live stream. I just did a couple of videos earlier today for the channel, and I thought, you know what, I'll do a live stream at 6 p.m. And we've been going for longer than our last live stream as well. So I'm gonna have 5 more minutes. So if you've got any more questions, place your questions. 5 more minutes, and then we're calling it a night. So any more questions, and then we'll wind it down. It's been great tonight, apart from a couple of idiots trolling. It's been fine. But Kemal, thank you very much for being here. Goodbye. Anyone else got any other questions? Because right. Okay, thank you, Yellow Skull. I will look out for that. It will be in my ads list. Max Barrier, he's a solid player. He's clearly your favourite player, obviously, but no, he's a very solid player. He's been a solid player for your team at the Wildcats for many, many years. He's a good team player. He's not the most skillful, but no, he's a solid all-round end-to-end player. He can go from defensive to offense through the neutral zone easily. He can skate both ways. He's a two-way player basically, and that's what you need to have. Motherwell, they need to get a bit more investment. I know they're rebuilding the main. They've refurbed the stadium. They've expanded the capacity. They just need to get a good group together, a good core group of Motherwell players, and develop them at about roughly the same pace. Youth development will be important for them. But as I say, the Scottish League does have money problems. So outside of Glasgow, Edinburgh, and the East Coast and the border areas, there's only so many teams you can have in such a small space. That's the problem as well. You've got so many teams very close together. Well, he is a very good player. He is a tough player as well, but he can create. He's a two-way player. He's a solid all-rounder, basically. I think every team needs a player like Bavaria. Right, any more questions? Because I think I'm going to wind it down. That's good. It's good that you got a favourite player. It's good that he's part of the reason why you enjoyed the sport, and long may that continue. And hopefully he sticks around with your team to. The Dundee rivalry is actually the only rivalry in Scottish football that has no violence attached to it because they share one hooligan firm. And to prove that, I have the books. So I'm going to find the Dundee section quickly, and I will. Oh, it's DU, isn't it? Doncaster, Dundee, and Dundee United. A local derby against town or city rivals usually brings out the worst in violence, right? Not so in Dundee. The hooligans who follow Dundee and Dundee United actually mob up together. And the only argument tends to be over who decided which opponent to face on any particular weekend. Fans of the two clubs have been battling since the early 70s, particularly against Aberdeen. And by the early 80s, there were two mobs in town. So yeah, basically Dundee and Dundee United. The Dundee rivalry is actually the friendliest rivalry in football because the grounds are separated by a road. That's literally it. It's 50 meters between the two stadiums. It's separated by a road and two footpaths. So Dundee United and Dundee share one hooligan firm, and I'm not joking. I'm being deadly serious. Well, the thing is, 37. Some hockey players, ice hockey players, play into their 40s and have done at NHL level and at lower levels. Uh, Lucas Smithall being one, Longstaff being another. He is still playing. He's over 40. If he does decide to retire, it's going to happen. Hearts Hibs is very much similar to the old firm rivalry in between Rangers and Celtic. It's on sectarian lines as well. Hibs being Catholic, Hearts being Protestant. It's not as bad as Rangers Celtic, but there have been. What's the film? There's a film. I don't know if it's Football Factory or Rise or Green Machine or Green Street, but there's the scene where the kid gets his head stamped on. That is based on an incident that happened at I think Aberdeen Hibs game, and the kid got separated from his dad and got kicked to death. Basically, it still happens now. That is a very heated and very nasty rivalry in Edinburgh. And a lot of the thuggish elements have links to the organised crime that deals the heroin in Edinburgh as well. So it's not a pleasant rivalry, and it's a rivalry I don't particularly like or want to see. As someone who's been around sport all my life, yeah, any old firm rivalry in Scotland is sectarian and it's brutal, and people do die at these games. People have been stabbed, people have had their heads curbed, people have been shot. It happens, and a lot of it is to do with Catholic and Protestant sectarianism, and some of it is to do with what gang you belong to as well, like organised crime gang, not just hooligan gang, but the organised crime side of it as well, and it is a problem. And Scottish football is being very lax on. The Scottish FA has been asleep on the job. Same with the English FA over hooliganism. They haven't. They've relaxed too much over the last 10, 15 years. But anyway, one more question from each. The last two people left in the lobby. One more question, and then that's it done. Hey, sometimes those kind of celebrations are necessary, but you have to be very, very careful doing it because you can get life bans. It's to do with the supporters, Casey, I'm afraid. Football supporters, it's a very tribal thing. Ice hockey, some of the fans can get violent. I'm not going to deny that. I have seen fans do silly things. The Bracknell-Guildford rivalry back in the early noughties, cars had windows smashed and fights did happen outside both the Spectrum and John Knox Center. We used to fight regularly. It's not so bad now, but at the time when I was growing up, Bracknell was not actually that nice a place to live. There was a gang element to the town. There still actually is. It's not as well. It's sunk below the radar a little bit, but the Bracknell ice rink was always a tough ice rink to play at. Away fans used to hate coming to it. Now it's not as an intimidating atmosphere because it's a more friendly family atmosphere. But 10, 20 years ago, it was an intimidating atmosphere, and it was not very pleasant to be an away fan coming in to a rather frosty reception. I'm going to miss the Bison as a rival. I really am. And I think that's it now. Thank you everyone for tonight. Thank you very much. I will miss the Basingstoke Bison next season because they have been a great credit to the British ice hockey over the years. And yeah, I've been to loads of football games. I went to my first game at the age of 6. I went to every round of the FA Cup in 2002-2003 season. I've got loads of football programs dotted around this house and my mum's house, and I haven't been to a football game for about a decade or so, if not more, maybe 12 years. But I used to go regularly when when I was a teenager, and then I started to grow out of love with the sport. As time went on, I looked at the ticket price I was paying going up and up and up, and the quality level getting worse and worse and worse. And I wasn't prepared to pay the money that they were asking. I've been invited to football games by mates, but look, at the end of the day, it's been a great live stream. I'm actually going to have my dinner first. Then I'm going to go to the pub, but dinner first. But thank you very much. I'm going to call it an end there. Thank you for everyone who's been involved in the live stream. Your questions have been brilliant. Casey, you've been with me since the start of the live stream for 2 hours and 40 minutes. So fair play for keeping up for that long. Yellow Skull, I know you joined a bit later, but your input on Scottish football has been very, very interesting. And I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And for everyone else who will watch the replay of this, thank you for watching and participating. And I'll have a live stream for you on Sunday for a definite. And there may be other live streams throughout the week, but I will message various subscribers and viewers who one day I might have to take you up on that invite, but I will not be swung either way for Celtic or Rangers, and I might just have to wear my Blackburn shirt and see what the result is. I might have to come up and we'll see what the result is for the Old Firm. But thank you very much for the invite. That'd be very interesting. I love the atmosphere of an arena, a sporting arena, when it's bouncing. I love the atmosphere of it. I do miss kind of football and rugby. I miss the atmosphere of a big 40,000 plus stadium rocking. But no, thank you very much, guys. I'm going to call it a night now. Goodbye, everyone. And I will have possibly more live streams this week. But on Sunday, Sunday at 7 p.m. will be my official live stream timing for the next couple of months. And Casey, thank you very much as well. And hopefully I'll see you both next season at some kind of sporting event, travel permitting and money permitting. So thank you very much for the invites. I'll have to take you up on some of them. Thank you very much for the live stream. And I'll have some more videos for you tomorrow, guys, on the channel. And there may be a live stream, I would say Wednesday, possibly. Yeah, go on your Rangers, because, yeah, okay, I'll give you that one. And go your Wildcats as well. Yeah, I'll give you that one. All right. Thank you very much, guys.